Chapter 626. The Tibetans only discovered that one squad was missing at night. Once they discovered it, they didn't just discover that one squad was missing. They also discovered that the number of patrols in various places was missing. If someone was able to calculate the losses in these few places, they would get a number, 12. 12 teams of patrols disappeared just like that. No one discovered the corpses, and no one saw the horses. The Tibetans didn't seem to care too much about the sudden disappearance of 60 people. After all, they didn't go to other places to ask. If they lost a team, it was very likely that they had encountered a pack of wolves. Such situations were very common in the bushes and mountains. After being ambushed by more than 10 wolves, those with slow reactions wouldn't have the chance to run back. The most frightening thing was to dismount and let the people and horses rest while they were being surrounded. Of course, there was another possibility, and that was that someone had found the fleeing commoners and was eating and living with them. This kind of situation wasn't rare. If someone wanted to investigate, they would say that they had found traces of the enemy and had been following them for a day. No one suspected much on this day. However, if there was no reaction when a team was missing, then for 3 consecutive days, there would be people missing every day. Furthermore, the previous team hadn't returned yet. Then, there would be something wrong. Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang searched for 3 days, but still couldn't find the Tang army. Shui Yun flew with all her might. Other than searching for the Tang army, she also had to report the Tibetans to her master. After that, it was up to 1 eagle, 2 dogs, and 2 people to cooperate in battle. Usually, the eagle would swoop down from behind the enemy, grabbing one with his claws and biting one with his beak. Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang would shoot with their crossbows and arrows. The remaining person would be left to the 2 dogs. One would be responsible for pouncing down from the horse, while the other would be responsible for biting the throat. Both were in a team of 5, but Zhang Ying's team was always able to find the enemy before they ambushed. The Tibetans, on the other hand, were always unlucky. In 3 days, Zhang Ying's team of 5 dealt with 40 teams of Tibetans. In total, they had a total of 200 people. They also obtained 200 horses. Luckily, there were many horses in the place where the 2 of them lived. They knew how to keep the horses, otherwise it would be difficult to control them. This time, the Tibetans finally realized that something was wrong. Since the teams of cavalrymen were missing, it definitely wasn't as simple as encountering a pack of wolves or finding a woman. As a result, the originally scattered cavalry began to shrink, and the 5 teams became 10 teams. This action was effective. Although they still couldn't find the person who launched the sneak attack, they weren't attacked for a day, and the number of people who went out returned the same. However, after only 1 day, there were more teams that did not return. This time, 10 people and 10 horses disappeared in one go. After Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang realized that they couldn't cooperate with each other to wipe out the 10-man team like before, they thought for an entire day and finally came up with a plan. Zhang Lang or Zhang Ying would change into tubo clothes and find a hillside to dig a trap. Then, one of them would shout from the front to attract the 10 men. When all 10 of them had fallen into the trap, or when some of them had fallen into the trap, the 2 of them and their animals would work together to eliminate the others. On this day, they used the same method to deal with 3 groups of people in the same place. When they were dealing with the last group of people, one of them reacted quickly. He ran out on a horse and prepared to go back to report. Unfortunately, no matter how fast he reacted, his horse couldn't outrun an eagle. With a dive, he was finished off. On the 6th day, after Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang arrived in Tubo, they finished off another 4 teams. The 2 of them led their 265 horses and no longer continued to fight with the Tibetans. They continued to head north. Out of the 5 horses, 4 of them fell into the trap and were buried. The last one had 5 people killed to solve its food problem. The Tubo people were already confused. Just how many people were attacking them? Could it be that the main force of the Tang army was here? Only if the number of scouts was 5 times more than the Tibetans would they be able to kill all of them. As a result, the focus of the Tibetan search returned to the area where Tatatatu was ambushed. There were still 10 teams of scouts, but there was another team behind each team. They were not far away and could vaguely see the people in front of them. This way, if something happened, they could shout loudly or see it with their own eyes. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao led the team to rest for a few days. All the rice was harvested and harvested. They treated the local people much better than before. Furthermore, by bad-mouthing the Tibetans, they guided the people to talk about how they were bullied. This made the people hate the Tibetans even more for stealing their things and raping their wives and daughters. They hanged the heads of 2 villages. These 2 village heads had bullied the people in their villages together with a certain tribe of Tubo. They also divided the things in the village heads' houses. This made the people feel relieved. Wang Wan also asked the doctors who treated the people to talk about how good Ijo was and how happy life was there. They told the single men that there were beautiful women in Ijo who liked men like them. They also told the old people that there was a place specially prepared for the old people in Ijo. If they had children, they would tell them that all the children in Ijo could learn to read and write without spending money. To single women, they would tell them that there were many capable men in Ijo who wanted to marry women like them very much. They would not even let go of their children. After giving their children some rock candy to treat illnesses, they would tell them that there were many more delicious candies in Ijo. The local people gradually surrendered under such brainwashing. They looked at the Tang army. How good were they? They didn't rob the people's things, raping the women in their families, and eating the hearts of the children. They even helped to work and treated the people's diseases. Of course, they didn't know that when the logistics camp of the Tang army first arrived, they slaughtered a village. On this day, Wang Wan saw that the wounded people had almost recovered. Those who were seriously injured wouldn't die easily on the road, except for those who died. She prepared to lead people to create an opportunity for the local people and the people in charge of logistics to escape back to Pingzhou. In fact, there was another way, but Wang Wan didn't plan to let the people use it. It was not a good way to go. After dawn, Wang Wan began to make preparations. They would start the operation at night. Those who needed to sleep slept, and those who needed to tidy up their things. The last batch of clothes was also washed. When they were dry at night, they would wear them. The smell of blood was much stronger than before. At noon, a small black dot appeared in the sky. It seemed to be attracted by something below, so it lowered a lot. When the people in the village saw clearly that it was an eagle, it turned around and flew away. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao also saw the eagle. They felt that there was something wrong with the eagle's movements. The 2 of them took a closer look with their binoculars, but they couldn't see what was wrong with it. 30 li away from the village, Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang were waiting with their 2 dogs. There were another 20 horses in the team, but the 2 of them were wounded. They encountered a group of 10 Tibetan cavalrymen in front and back. As the horses were too obvious, they were discovered. In a situation where they couldn't hide, the 2 of them first used the horses to charge. Then they abandoned the crossbows and used the bows to shoot at the Tibetan cavalrymen. They ran out of arrows, used up the 2 muskets, and shot out arrows. They won the battle with knife wounds and arrows on their bodies. Even Qian Un's head was cut by a knife, revealing the bone. It stopped bleeding and lay in its owner's arms. Shui Yun was released to check if there were any enemies chasing after them or in the surroundings. In the end, Shui Yun found the Tang army's clothes that were drying in the village. After circling around to confirm, she rushed back. After Zhang Ying and Shui Yun had a simple conversation, he happily said to Zhang Lang, "Let's go, we found our men in front. Quick." As he spoke, he carried Wan En onto the horse. Zhang Lang also carried Qian En. The 2 of them led the 285 horses and headed towards the village in front. The distance of 30 li was less than 2 hours if the horses galloped at full speed. When the 2 of them were about 6 li away from the village, the members of Team 0, who were in charge of guarding, saw them. When a tree fell, The people observing from behind did the same thing. When Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang were 5 li away from the village, the people in the village had already made their preparations. The clothes that were hung up to dry began to be collected, and the people went into the cellar. The people in charge of guarding in front were thinking of ways to hide themselves. Therefore, when Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang ran to the village, they were dumbfounded. The village was peaceful. A child was playing in the mud by the river outside. An old man was squatting by a big rock outside the courtyard, and a woman was standing outside the fence with a basin of washing clothes in her hand, chatting with another woman inside. Shui Yun, where are the Tang soldiers? Zhang Ying looked at the scene in front of him in a daze. He suddenly doubted his eagle training skills. Could it be that there was a problem with communication? Shui Yun had seen it when it was in the sky. The people were all hiding, but it could not speak and could not express itself so clearly. It looked at Zhang Ying, and then at the house of the person who had just taken clothes in. It cried out anxiously. Fortunately, there was not only one Ying in the team. There were also 2 big dogs with sensitive ears and smell. They were also smarter. They barked at the house at the same time. Zhang Ying turned around and glanced at Zhang Lang, as if to ask if his dog had discovered something. There are people. Zhang Lang only said 2 words. Actually, Zhang Ying did not need him to say it. He also knew that there were people, and there were many of them with weapons in their hands. The 2 people who had seen them came out one by one. Don't do anything. We are the villagers of Zhangji Zhuangzi in Sanshui County. We are now part of the logistics camp in Izhou. Look, this is the proof. Zhang Ying saw that the person in front of him was holding a powerful crossbow that he also owned. He lifted the 2 bows close and revealed the rice seedling pattern inside. At the same time, he showed the gun at his waist. Perhaps he felt that it was not enough. He opened his backpack and showed the binoculars, compressed biscuits, and commonly used medicine to the other party in case the other party's hands trembled and shot an arrow. Looking at the scattered items, the other party put down the crossbow. They were on the same side. They were indeed on the same side. Outsiders would not be so well equipped. When Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang heaved a sigh of relief, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan stood out. They looked at the 2 people and found that they did not recognize them. Zhang Xiaobao asked doubtfully, "You are?" "Little master, little lady, I am Zhang Ying. He is my brother Zhang Lang. We are the brothers that Steward Song helped to take in." Zhang Xiaobao and the others did not recognize Zhang Ying, but Zhang Ying knew the 2 of them. There was a portrait, and he had already remembered them. Zhang Xiaobao remembered and nodded happily. I know. One knows how to train eagles, and the other knows how to raise dogs. It really is the 2 of you. Did you encounter any danger on your way here? Quickly get off the horse and have a good rest. Little master, little lady, we finally found you. It's good that you are fine. Our family is worried, and so is the imperial court. Little master, Qian is injured. Let the doctor take a look at it. We can't let it die of illness. It was not easy to raise it. It killed so many Tibetans. Zhang Lang was in tears. He jumped off the horse with Qian in his arms and brought it to Zhang Xiaobao. Wang Wan looked at the dog raised by the other party and was envious. This dog looked fierce, but when it was held in the other party's arms, it felt its owner's attitude and its eyes became gentle. It was a good dog. It was almost as good as the dog she saved on Luzhou's mountain. That dog was smart, but this dog must have been trained. The doctor quickly rushed to the front. He treated the dog and stitched it up. He also checked the injuries on Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang. The horse was taken away and hidden. Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang were treated while they talked about how they came here. Little master, little lady, you are really amazing. You went to the front line in the name of the logistics camp to provide reinforcements. Then, you led the army to fight on Jinchuan and killed more than 13,000 enemies. You successfully escaped the encirclement of the Tibetans. No one could find you. The family was both happy and worried. They were afraid that you would lose a pair of eyes. So they sent me and my younger brother here. My younger brother and I received the order, and went to the military station. We rushed to Pengzhou 7 days ago and searched for you for 7 days before we found you. Little master, little lady, with Shui Yun here, we will definitely be able to return safely. Should we leave immediately? Zhang Ying meant that they should leave now and go home. They could not stay in Tubo. It was too dangerous. There is no hurry to go home. It was not easy for me to rest and reorganize. If I don't teach the Tibetans a lesson, how can I face the people of Wangjiang? How did you get through these 7 days? Where did you find the horse? Wang Wan did not intend to go back. When she took over the troops, they did not have much morale left. Furthermore, they were not in good condition. At that time, she was able to lead the troops to victory. Now that they had rested for a period of time, how could she leave so easily? Hearing the young lady's question, Zhang Ying began to talk about how he and his younger brother sneak-attacked the enemy during these 7 days, how they searched, and how they were injured when they were 30 miles away. Many people gathered around to listen, including Guitu and the others. They all looked at the 2 injured people in front of them and listened to the calm story without much passion in their tone. However, their hearts were stirred up with monstrous waves. Guitu looked at the surrounding generals and whispered, "No one in the Zhang family is normal." All the generals nodded in agreement. The 2 young fellows sent by the Zhang family were able to command the troops to go in circles with the enemy. After 2 big circles, they eliminated a large number of Tubo people. Their losses were minimal. This was fine. After all, there might not be a single ruthless person in 1,000 years. However, looking at the 2 people sent by the Zhang family, in 7 days, just the 2 of them killed 290 Tubo people and brought back 285 horses. According to this, there was no need to use the main force. If the Zhang family had nothing to do, they could just send 2 people out every few days. The Tubo people would probably be wiped out in less than a year. After Zhang Ying finished talking about his and his younger brother's experience, he realized that the gazes of the surrounding people had changed. They were filled with respect and admiration. Huzi went forward and sized up the 2 of them. He grinned and said, "Good, good. You didn't weaken our reputation. Let the Tubo people know that they can scheme against anyone but us, the Zhang family and Wang family. Otherwise, even if they are thousands of miles away, they will still have to bear the consequences of revenge. Any one of us can take care of them. How did you sell these eagles? You gave one to each of us in the Miao protection team and raised them for fun." Huzi's words sounded reasonable at the beginning, but his intentions were exposed at the end. Zhang Ying was also honest. He replied, "Eagles, like the cloud water, are rare. Usually, it costs about 600 strings of cash to raise them. Some people raise them cheaper. If you don't spend too much money to catch them, you might be able to use them as hunting eagles with a few dozen strings of cash. Mine is a war eagle. I raised it specifically for the young master and young lady. From the time I got the cloud water to the time it could fight together, I spent more than 1,000 strings of cash. The cloud water is bigger than other eagles. It can easily grab an adult and fly in the sky. When I came here, I thought about it. If I see the young master and young lady, and if we are surrounded, I will let the cloud water grab the young master and young lady and break out of the encirclement." As he spoke, Zhang Ying took out a few tags from his backpack and introduced them. The cloud water is very smart. It can fly to designated places. There are 2 tags for each type. When I bring the cloud water to a place, I just need to throw down a tag. If the cloud water needs to fly there by itself, I will take out the other tag for it to see. When it sees the tag, it will know where to fly. At first, it could only recognize 1 type of racket. Now, it can recognize 6 types of tags. The cloud water has worked very hard. Wing province is too far from here, and the mountains are too high. I didn't dare to throw the tags to others, so I put one in Pengzhou. The cloud water can go back at any time. Haha, the Tibetans are dead for sure. Good eagle, you have done a great service. Stay here and help us kill the enemy." Zhang Xiaobao laughed, but his voice was childish. There was no imposing manner in it. Wang Wan also looked at Zhang Ying and the cloud water with satisfaction. Of course, The one she was most satisfied with was Song Jinggong. He had left the two people behind. Who would have thought that the two people who were about to starve to death back then would have such ability? Wang Wan knew that the cloud water was very useful. In a time like this, where there were no advanced communication methods, the cloud water could help to pass information back and forth. If the Pengzhou side found an opportunity to send troops, they would tell her side, and the two sides would cooperate. The cloud water's reconnaissance ability was like the hot air balloon in the past, floating in the sky to command. In the beginning, the cloud water was used for reconnaissance. Later on, it developed into shooting with pistols. Wasn't this just a simple military satellite? Not to mention 1,000 strings of cash. It was worth 100,000 strings of cash to raise one. After everyone was done being happy and shocked, Zhang Ying took out an imperial edict. He looked at Guitu and the others and said, "Guitu, accept the edict." Guitu and the others were stunned. They had a bad feeling in their hearts. As expected, the contents of the imperial edict dealt a huge blow to Guitu and the others. They were stripped of their official positions and, at the same time, were asked to go back to receive their punishment. The position would be taken over by either Zhang Xiaobao or Wang Wan. If the two of them didn't lead troops and someone else did, then that person would take over. It was written very clearly in the imperial edict. If it was either Wang Wan or Zhang Xiaobao, then in addition to taking over the position of real power, they would also be given the title of General of the Army, a lower second-rank official. If Zhang Xiaobao obtained this position, then Wang Wan would be conferred the title of a second-rank imperial lady. If Wang Wan obtained this position, then the rank of a sixth-rank official that was originally given to Zhang Xiaobao would become a lower second-rank official, Jin Ziguang, Lu Daifu. The two of them would have to prepare their own clothes and ceremonial rites, and they wouldn't be rewarded with money or cloth. Guitu was both envious and afraid. He could see how much the imperial court valued these two children. If the commander was changed, there would only be real power and no other official, and they would only be rewarded when they returned. However, it was different when it came to these two children. There seemed to be an endless supply of second-rank official, one for each of them. It was useless to be envious of others. It was better to think about oneself. At this time, Zhang Ying added, "There is also a saying, Xiaobao, Cuckoo, you two children quickly come back. If Li Shi wants to recognize Xiaobao as his adopted son, then do it when we return to the capital. Don't run around outside. The wind on the mountain is strong, and it's cold and cold. If you don't listen, come back and beat me with a plank." When Zhang Ying said this, the surrounding people gasped. Everyone was shocked by the emperor's attitude towards the young master and young lady. Most of the emperor wouldn't say this to his own son, right? Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were also stunned. The two of them didn't expect Li Longji to have such a cute side. Xiaoli is really a good person. Even if he is pretending, he rarely pretends in front of others. Once these words spread, I can be a dandy in the future. Let's see who dares to provoke me. Xiaobao whispered to Wang Wan. Wang Wan nodded. Then we can't go back. Xiao Li's words are worth the lives of 10,000 Tubo soldiers. We can't let him say it for nothing. Guitu was speechless. What was this called? He thought about himself and knew that if no one spoke up for him, then once he returned, he would be finished. He didn't dare to run, and he couldn't run. His family was still in the capital, and how could he run out of this village? The emperor could just send two people to deal with him, and the eagle called Shui Yun was watching from the sky. When he thought of this, he set his eyes on Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. He didn't want to seize power, and he didn't want to take revenge on others. The emperor had personally said that he wanted them to go back quickly, and he even showed a caring expression. Chapter 627. When Guitu and the others heard Wang Wan's words, their hearts finally settled down. With Wang Wan's words, it was much more useful than others pleading for mercy. Even if someone in the imperial court really wanted to deal with them, they would give Wang Wan some face. Gao Li Shi actually wanted to take Xiao Bao as his godson. With this, they wouldn't have to worry about being punished when they returned. It was fine if they didn't want to be a general. Even if they were given command, now, they wouldn't be able to command. If they were really given command, they would definitely run away. However, looking at the little girl, it seemed that she hadn't played enough and was preparing for something big. If he had known earlier, he would have directly given her command of the army when they passed by Izhou. Then, they might have been able to take over Jin Chuancheng by now. Zhang Xiaobao wrote a letter, and even took out the proof of the leader of the enemy's 1,000-man team. He tied the letter to Shui Yun as well. An eagle was more convenient to use than a pigeon. It was stronger, unlike a pigeon. If you wanted it to carry something, it had to be able to carry it. Shui Yun sensibly spread its wings and flew away. Wang Wan started a new arrangement. With the addition of a strong helper, the plan couldn't be carried out like before and had to be used. Together with the logistics, transportation, and medical team, there were a total of 4,000 people. They brought the bad horses and loaded the food and headed east. When they reached the foot of the snowy mountain, they headed south and returned to Pingzhou. The remaining 10,000 people who could continue to fight were divided into 3,000 crossbowmen. Each of them had a horse, forming a light cavalry unit and 3 reinforced battalions. Other than these 3,000 people, the remaining 7,000 people were divided into 3,000 people who stayed in the village to continue the civil engineering construction. Inherit the fine tradition of the People's Liberation Army. The other 4,000 people went up the mountain. Wang Wan was determined. The troops had finished resting and had a large amount of supplies. There was also the existence of military satellites. In addition to the dog's sensitive hearing and smell, if she didn't do something and let the Tubo people know how powerful she was, she would write her surname backwards. When Zhang Xiaobao heard Wang Wan's vow, he could only tell her that it was fortunate that her surname wasn't Tian. Otherwise, there would be 2 more ways to write it. Wang Wan, who had originally planned to take action at night, ordered the troops to take action now. Guitu and the others, who were supposed to go back, requested to stay. At least they could help out with the captain's work. After all, they had also learned a lot. After hearing Wang Wan's order, Guitu humbly asked, "General Wang, may I ask why we don't move at night? It's easy to be discovered by the enemy during the day." They've already discovered it. Zhang Ying killed 20 of the enemy's riders 30 li away. How could they not know? 20 riders is not a small number. They will definitely come in contact with each other once in a while. When they discover that the blood tribe is gone, they will definitely come here. At that time, they will search the village. Wang Wan didn't look down on Guitu at all. She answered his question. "Oh, that's right. How should we get there?" Guitu was very eager to learn because he couldn't guess Wang Wan's next move. This made him feel very uncomfortable in his heart. If a general couldn't guess the opponent's intentions during battle, then what was the point of fighting? Leave? Wouldn't it be a pity to leave such a good place? I have to make use of it and kill at least 10,000 Tubo soldiers before leaving. Up the mountain. Wang Wan didn't plan to run. With such good conditions, as long as they weren't idiots, they would think of a way to scheme against the enemy. 4 hours later, the Tubo soldiers discovered that 2 groups of people were missing. They were already vigilant and immediately sent people to search. In the end, a group of 100 encountered a battalion of light cavalry. They were shot down by the enemy's crossbow arrows at a leeward area. They didn't even manage to escape. They were still wearing armor. The light cavalry only had a single piece of clothing and didn't even have leather armor. The food they brought was only enough to last them for 2 days. They were all chasing after speed. The disappearance of a group of 100 left the Tubo soldiers no choice but to send people to check again. This time, 2 groups of 100 returned. Before they could run to the location, they encountered a battalion of light cavalry. At the same time, the wind was against them and they were shot down. This time, they learned to be smart and scattered to escape. In the end, they discovered that there were enemies in every direction. The 2 groups of 100 lost contact with the Tubo soldiers again. This time, The Tubo soldiers didn't continue to send a group of 100, but a group of 1,000. Unfortunately, when the group of 1,000 rushed over, they were all gone. In the middle of the night, who would want to play with them? Why weren't they sleeping? The group of 1,000 didn't dare to rashly advance. They slowly arrived at the village and discovered that there was no one here. Those that could be brought away were all taken away by the commoners. This time, they finally understood where the enemy had been hiding. They were actually hiding in these few villages. It seemed that the commoners were also bribed. When the group of 1,000 saw that there were no enemies, they could only send 200 people back to report. The remaining 800 people stayed in the village. The wind was weaker here, and it wasn't that cold. When dawn came, the reinforcements that the 800 people were waiting for didn't come. The 200 people who went back to report last night were also gone. When the 800 people didn't dare to scatter and return to their encampment, they told the situation. The generals in the headquarters were all stunned. How many people were there in the Tang army? How could they leave all 200 cavalry behind? Could it be that this was where the main force of the Tang army was? Since the Tang army in the village was gone, where was the main force of the Tang army now? Tatatu also received the news. His men were still on the mountain with 13,000 men. It wasn't that he didn't want to go back, but he didn't dare to. If he went back, his position would be gone. He had lost 7,000 men. How could he think about it? Therefore, he kept asking people to send him supplies. He always lied that he found small groups of Tang army chasing and annihilating them. After hearing this news, Tatata's first reaction was that the opportunity had come. He sent a message to the other divisions, saying that he knew where the main force of the Tang army was. They were on the mountain, and he asked for reinforcements. He could bring his men to fight a head-on battle. The people in the other divisions didn't believe him for a long time. The last time they sent 6,000 men, all of them were annihilated. They even sent reinforcements. Maybe the main force of the Tang army was still at the place where his 4,000 men were killed, looking for a chance to launch a sneak attack. D*MN clairvoyance. How can they see so far? If we continue to fight like this, we will be in a passive position. Didn't those people who went to Tang to collect information and secretly recruit officials know how to bring back a few clairvoyants? They could have found one and let the craftsmen learn how to make one. Tatata hated himself when he thought that he was always one step behind the enemy. He knew the use of clairvoyance. They could discover the enemy in advance and make arrangements in advance. They could ambush or retreat, making it impossible for the enemy to guard against. If he had won, he would definitely not lose. When days had passed, all the Tibetans were looking for the main force of the Tang army, but no one could find it. 3 hours later, remaining men found the 3,000 men and turned back. There was no one at the place where they were ambushed. Judging from the marks, they should have gone down the mountain. I told you that the main force of the Tang army is here. Look at the density of the arrows. There are at least 3,000 men. If there are 3,000 crossbowmen, how many saber and spear soldiers are there? If they are not the main force, then what are they? The messenger sent by Tatatu repeated his words. The people in the divisions had no choice but to believe him. That's right, 3,000 crossbowmen. According to the ratio, they were definitely the main force of the Tang army. The main force of the Tang army should be ambushing Tatatu in front of the road and the flat ground at the foot of the mountain. They had to go up and down. But this time, they didn't send reinforcements to Tatatu directly. Instead, they wanted to take the credit themselves. The 3 divisions had 6,000 men each. This way, they didn't have to worry about being ambushed and annihilated. When the three divisions arrived at the place where they were ambushed, Tataru received news that the 1,000 men he sent to find the main force of the Tang army had been ambushed. Only about 100 of them had escaped. At this time, even if they were defeated one by one, he would accept it. As long as the 18,000 men behind him could avenge him, he would accept it. Wang Wan was very relaxed at this time. It was different with an eagle. It could fly in the sky and scan the ground. It could cover an area of dozens of kilometers. Even if it flew more, it could see the situation within 100 kilometers. Shui Yun had made a great contribution. Every day, someone would hunt fresh game for it to eat. Now I finally know why it is so difficult to fight against the grassland tribes with eagles. Only the eagle can restrain them. Unless more people are sent. Unless the enemy's main force is ignored and the enemy's civilians are wiped out directly. Otherwise, the same number of troops can be used to determine the result. Wang Wan liked Shui Yun very much. It was so comfortable to bring it around the enemy's territory. Zhang Xiaobao was also very happy. He planned to ask Zhang Ying to train more people like Shui Yun and catch more eagles. It was just money. He would give as much as he wanted. At this time, when he heard Wang Wan's words, he asked, "Does that mean that as long as you have this eagle, you will have no opponents?" "No, that depends on who is in command. If it was my instructor back then, with the same number of people, I would definitely win against him if I had the eagle, and he didn't. However, if he had the current number of people in Tubo, it would be like child's play for him to beat me. The eagle isn't omnipotent. There's a tactic called feint, another method called disguise, and another method called marching. Not to mention him. Even those old generals in the early Tang Dynasty have ways to force me away. If I continue to fight, then I will definitely lose. Of course, it won't be that easy to catch me. We can escape on our own at the most critical moment, and when we return to our dynasty, we will have more soldiers to fight. At that time, it won't be just 15,000 soldiers. I will not be so stupid as to not have the face to meet my elders. As long as I am alive, there is hope. Yes, the Tibetan cavalry has moved out. It is almost time to wrap things up. I will give Xiao Li a gift." Wang Wan was not arrogant enough to think that she was invincible. She also did not deliberately belittle herself. If she had something good, she would use it. Who cares if the Tibetans had telescopes or eagles? Could it be that she could not throw an atomic bomb at them if they did not have one? The Tibetans felt that this battle was too difficult, but they had to fight. This was a battle in their own territory. If they did not fight the enemy, how could they live a peaceful life? The people of Tatatadu formed a horizontal line and searched forward. 18,000 people who were waiting to take advantage of the situation also followed closely behind. They hoped that this time they could eliminate the enemy's main force in the vast Golden River. In the middle of the night, the Tibetans lit up their torches. They did not intend to rest and continued to move forward. Just after they moved forward for another 2 hours, 3,000 light cavalrymen ran over from the village and attacked the 18,000 people supply team. Fire arrows filled the sky and lit up the dark night sky. The 3,000 light cavalrymen did not continue to fight. After they finished burning the things, they took out the horses from the opponent's stables and turned to run again. Crazy. The Tibetans were crazy, especially the people from the 3rd Division who came to help. They questioned Tatatatu. "Where's the main force of the Tang army? Didn't you say that they were on the mountain?" They left Tatatatu alone, and the people from the 3rd Division went down the mountain together to help. There were more than 5,000 horses. What if they were all lost? The provisions were also burned. Tatatatu also saw the flames in the distance, but he could not figure out why the main force of the Tang army had run away. It was too fast, unless it was the cavalry. However, he still felt that the main force of the Tang army was right in front of him. To prove that he was right, he divided the team into 4,000 and 6,000 men. The 6,000 men continued to move forward, while he led the 4,000 men to chase after the 3 troops. He wanted to see if the main force of the Tang army was there. 2 hours later, large dark clouds appeared in the sky. It seemed that there would be a rain before dawn. Bolt of lightning flashed across the sky and struck a tree not far away. Tatatu and the others were shocked. Then the sky turned dark, and the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Tatatu was still puzzled. How could a thunderstorm make such a commotion? Before he could figure it out, the people in the team started to fall one after another. Screams of agony could be heard one after another. Tatatu looked at the scene with the help of the torch. He was stunned for a moment before he shouted, "There's an ambush!" He wanted to show his heroic spirit and continue to charge forward instead of retreating. However, when he saw the spear that pierced through his subordinates and gloomy dark, he wisely chose to escape. As he ran, Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao chased after him with their men. The 4,000 men had stayed on the mountain for a few days, and they were finally able to put their skills to good use. The spears made from the branches they cut down were also very useful. Illuminated by enemy torches, they knew where to throw them. Tatatu did not rest in the first place. He only wanted to lure the main force of the Tang army. Now that he had lured them, he did not have the strength to fight back. After running for a while, Tatatu came to his senses and shouted again, "Throw away the torches. Throw them away. Quick." Once the torches were thrown away, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's men would not be able to aim accurately. They did not dare to light the torches, as it would be easy for them to be forced into a corner and counterattack. The people of the protection team, go ahead. Act according to the plan. Wang Wan wanted to teach Tatatu a lesson. This was a good opportunity. When she saw that it was dark everywhere and only thunder could light up the place, she immediately ordered the protection team to move out. The people of the protection team rushed into the enemy's team. As they ran, they shouted the Tubo language that they had learned. "Oh no, the enemy is coming. Run." The people behind them listened to the sound and threw their spears. Wherever there was such a sound, they would not fly so as to not hurt their own people. After running for a while, Tatatu's men and himself could not run anymore. They could not help but slow down gradually. Some people stopped running and turned around to fight with the Tang army. Taking advantage of the darkness, they really killed some people. "Oh no, General Tatatu is dead. We are surrounded. Hurry up and surrender. Oh no, Tatatu is dead. Surrender." The people of the protection team could not find Tatatu's location and could only continue shouting. This time, a small number of Tubo people stopped running and knelt on the ground to surrender. There were 2 people beside Tatatu who knelt down. Tatatu was so angry that he killed them one by one. He shouted, "Who said that I am dead? I am still." Before he finished shouting, he covered his mouth. He realized that something was wrong. Wasn't he giving the enemy a specific location? Sure enough, he wasn't wrong. Just as he shouted those words, countless spears flew towards his position. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and rushed down the mountain ahead of time. Behind him, there was a series of screams. Tatatu hid behind a tree and shivered. "Damn it, this is too cruel. I will become a porcupine if I am a little later." He did not say anything. The people of the protection team continued to shout that he was dead. This time, he did not say anything. Otherwise, another wave of spears would fly toward him. There were blurry silhouettes everywhere, and he did not know if they were his allies or his enemies. Tatatu thought for a while and took off his clothes. He found a corpse beside him and put them on himself. Taking advantage of the darkness, he slowly crawled to a place. Even so, there were still people who threw spears at him and landed on his calf. He was in so much pain that he grimaced, but he did not make a sound. As he crawled, he realized that there were more people. They seemed to be running behind him. Listening to the shouting, he realized that it was the Tang army. This time, he did not dare to move. He lay on the ground and waited. As long as the Tang army rushed over, he might be able to escape. However, his plan was ruined by a flash of lightning and a child's voice. When the lightning flashed, a voice said, this person was hit in the calf. How did he die? Look. As soon as the voice fell, someone immediately came over from beside the two children. Tatatu already knew who the two children were. The spy in Pengzhou had sent the news. The ones who defeated him were not the generals, but the two children. When he heard the news, he did not believe it at all. Otherwise, he would not have the face to live. At this time, when he saw the two children in front of him, he was shocked. However, he understood that it was indeed the two children who were commanding the army. The opportunity was right in front of him. Tatata did not know where the strength came from. He did not care about the spear in his calf. He pushed off the ground with his hands and rushed toward the two children in front of him. He thought it through. As long as he caught the two children, no one would dare to touch him. When he brought the children back, it would be a great achievement. The people from the seedling protection team had been sent out, and it was so dark, the people guarding Zhang Xiaobao and Wanwan did not even have time to react. They could only see a blurry shadow leaping over, heading straight for the little young master and little Mississippi. Just as they were in a state of panic, they saw the figure that was pouncing toward them fly away in a flash. Damn, we're going to be generals soon. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan retracted their legs at the same time. They cursed and put down the arm that had just shot the arrow. It was really scary, just now. Young master, young lady, are you okay? The person next to them asked with concern. There were already people over there who held down the person who dared to sneak attack them. They would not let him die easily if he dared to attack the young master and young lady. It's okay, little guy. How dare a disabled person who was hit by a spear fight with me and Cuckoo? Do you really think you are a hero? Do you think you are me, who can escape from the search with a broken arm? Zhang Xiaobao replied. He lowered his voice so that only Wang Wan could hear him. Wang Wan laughed and said to the people in front of her, "Bring him here. I want to see who is so smart and knows how to play dead." Tadata did not know how he flew back. He felt a pain in his chest, then his thigh and arm. He could not move anymore. Wang Wan did not need to continue to give orders. She could not. She asked people to light torches and look at the person who almost succeeded in the sneak attack. I am not convinced. I am Tatata. You can't kill me. I want to fight with your generals again. Tatata did not hide his identity anymore. That way, he would die faster. The life of a soldier was not worth anything. He still wanted to fight with the two kids. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were stunned. They did not expect to catch a big fish. They looked at the person in front of them carefully. Zhang Xiaobao shook his head and said, "No wonder you always lose. You don't even know how to put on makeup. Look at your clothes. They are too small. You don't need to fight with your current appearance. You are lucky today. There is no poison on the arrow. Otherwise, you would have died." Chapter 6:28. A heavy rain fell, as if it wanted to wash away all the blood in the world. It continued to rain until the evening of the same day, and it showed no signs of stopping. The Tubo people still couldn't find the main force of the Tang army. Not to mention the main force, they couldn't even find the Tang army. All the provisions of the three troops were burned, and more than 5,000 horses were lost. When they were about to find Tatatu and ask him why the main force of the Tang army wasn't on the mountain, they sent someone back to report what happened that night. More than 3,000 of the 4,000 troops of Tatatu were killed, and Tatatu was nowhere to be found. After this battle, more than 7,000 of the 20,000 troops of Tatatu were left. The people of the three troops were speechless. They thought that if they were still behind Tatatu at that time, Tatatu wouldn't have been killed by the enemy. If they were not the main force of the Tang army, who could they be if they were able to kill more than 1,000 of the 4,000 troops? More than 20,000 people had died in the hands of the Tang army. To be more precise, it was 23,000 people. Many people had died in the camp that was attacked yesterday. 15,000 Tang soldiers came in, but after being ambushed, there were only 12,000 left, including the logistics troops who did not have much fighting power from the beginning until now. These people had killed more than 20,000 people on his side. The main force of the Tang army didn't seem to be affected at all. They were still able to fight and win. The news just came yesterday. It was said that the commander here had been confirmed. The girl of the 2 children was now 9 years old. Her name was Wang Wan, and those who were familiar with her called her Cuckoo. She was the daughter-in-law of the Izhou provincial governor. She was a very sensible girl. She was cute, pretty, and educated. It was said that she was the best at making wontons. Such a little girl of about 9 years old, took over the defeated Tang army and then fought against the army on his side. The distance she covered could be said to be thousands of miles. She schemed and set up ambushes everywhere. She was invincible and invincible. According to the art of war, she was as swift as the wind, as slow as the forest, as fierce as the fire, as immovable as the mountain, as unpredictable as the shadow, and as swift as the thunder. When did the Tang army have such a person? When did the great Tang become accustomed to letting a child lead its army? These did not seem to be important anymore. What was important was that the main force of the Tang army was still there, and they were still as ruthless as before. No matter how hard they searched, they were still nowhere to be found. The Tubo generals had already lost their temper from the beating, but they had no choice but to fight. She had already released the news that she was just a child, and she was the one who killed them until their blood flowed like a river. If they couldn't even deal with a child, what kind of country would they have? As a result, more troops were mobilized, and the Iron Cavalry took up their positions. So many people, so powerful, all for the sake of defeating a 9-year-old girl, Cuckoo. A very nice name. Recently, the officials of Pengzhou no longer placed their official duties as their top priority. All they thought about every day was how many Tibetans had been killed by the logistics battalion. A few days ago, Eagle had already delivered the latest news to Pengzhou. When the officials of Pengzhou saw the battle report, they were speechless. The person had been confirmed. She was Zhang Zhong's daughter-in-law. She had led her people to defeat the Tibetans again and again. The evidence was the item on Eagle's body. Now, no one doubted anything. They only hoped that this genius general could continue to kill for the Great Tang. The news quickly spread to the surrounding areas. When the wealthy families heard about it, they wanted to work hard to have daughters so that they could be like Wang Wan and lead troops into battle. It could be said that they were both men and women who had been reborn. Of course, no one knew that this was what they thought. They also didn't know that this sentence only appeared when the Great Tang was in danger. The people of Izhou also received the news. Zhang Zhong was so excited that he didn't know what to do. He didn't expect that not only were his son and daughter-in-law fine, but they were also hiding under the eyes of the enemy. The army that they led didn't lose too many people and still had the strength to fight. Jiang Wang clan and the people of the Wang family were also glowing, especially Wang Wan's father. In the past, he always felt a little inferior. Although his daughter was powerful, the one in charge was his son-in-law. He followed the Zhang family everywhere and wanted to do something to prove himself. However, he never had the chance. Now, the chance had come. Did you see it? Did you see it? The daughter of the Wang family is not just a decoration. The child of the Wang family is also powerful and can fight. Who can? Who in the world can have a 9-year-old daughter like this? In his joy, he dragged the people from the various strongholds to drink as much as he could. At the table, he kept talking about how he felt when his daughter was born, and how he felt now that his daughter was born. He was right. Even if the chief of the stronghold didn't want to listen to his boasting, he had to bear with it. He knew that he wasn't boasting. His daughter had done it. Old Man Pai and the other two gathered again. They looked at the news and didn't speak for a long time. After a while, Old Man Chang said, "Look, it's not wrong. It's the 2 children who are commanding, and it's Cuckoo. Did an expert teach the 2 children different skills? This time, the Zhang family and the Wang family's momentum has been established. In the future, ordinary people won't dare to provoke them. If they can compete in civil and martial arts, who can be a match for them? Old Man Pai didn't expect Cuckoo, who always smiled when she talked, to have such ability. In the past, when he was with Xiao Bao and Cuckoo, he mostly looked at Xiao Bao. Cuckoo always stood behind Xiao Bao. One was to support him silently, while the other was to protect Cuckoo at all times. But when it came to fighting, Cuckoo automatically stood in front, while Xiao Bao ran behind Cuckoo to support her. All the logistics were done by Xiao Bao. How were they still two children? Many adults couldn't do this. When one appeared, the other immediately hid. One was in the light, one was in the dark. What would happen when this pair of children grew up? Yes, they didn't need to grow up. They could do it now. If they were given a chance, they would definitely grab it. It seemed that he didn't make the wrong choice and helped the right people. In the future, the Tang Empire would be handed over to them. Thinking of this, Old Man Pai sighed and said, I hope Cuckoo comes back soon. If she's surrounded there and something happens, it'll be a loss for our dynasty. If there's no other way, we'll force Peng Zhou to send troops. Aren't there many people who want to join the army now? Old Man Yao tried his best to control himself and not let himself get too excited. His body had always been weak and needed to rest. He was afraid that he would get too excited when something happened. He, who had been the prime minister many times, had trained himself to not be shocked by honor or disgrace. But when faced with such a situation, he couldn't treat it with the same attitude as before. Xiao Bao was only a little over 9 years old, but he was able to arrange the logistics so well that the soldiers in front didn't have to worry about the rear. Cuckoo was also a little over 9 years old. She was born in the same year, same month, and same day as Xiao Bao. She was able to lead the soldiers to contend with the strong enemies of Tubo and not be defeated. Even if she was 10 years older, no, 3 years older, at least there would be a 12-year-old prime minister, right? But the two children just had to be exposed at such a young age. They couldn't even hide it. Perhaps it was because they had been hiding it again and again. Yao Chong was really frightened. He had never heard of such a thing. He thought that Tubo must be feeling even worse. So many generals were being toyed with by a 9-year-old girl. Wouldn't they go crazy? All right, now Tubo's days weren't going to be good. They had mobilized so many soldiers, and even the steel cavalry had to come out. The steel cavalry was the troop that protected Tubo's capital. How much did they have to force Tubo's people to do this? All of the mobilizing of the army was money, and they had profited. With the current dynasty's small military force and the money from the Zhang family and Wang family to organize the logistics, they had dragged Tubo into mobilizing so much financial, material, and manpower. After taking a few deep breaths, Old Man Yao gradually calmed down and said, I think that should be the case. Let Peng Zhou mobilize the army. Right now, the people there all want to join the army and serve our dynasty. This is all because of Cuckoo. If a little girl can do it, how could those grown men not be able to do it? Even if they don't mobilize the army, they have to act like they are going to attack and cooperate with Cuckoo. Otherwise, Cuckoo won't have it easy. If Cuckoo and Xiao Bao are gone, what kind of situation will that be? If that's really the case, I'm willing to exchange my old life for it. I've lived for so long, and I've lived long enough. Nothing must happen to Cuckoo and Xiao Bao. Old Man Chang was the most direct and immediately expressed his position. Old Man Pai didn't say anything, but from the expression on his face, he was willing to exchange his life for it. Just as they were discussing whether or not they should use their status to force Peng Zhou to make a move, the imperial edict from the capital arrived. It was specifically for Old Man Yao and Old Man Pai, telling them to fully cooperate with Zhangzhong and Yizhou. At the same time, another imperial edict was sent to Peng Zhou, ordering Peng Zhou to make preparations to attack. Just as the others were making their moves, Wang Wan began the next step of her plan. She placed a team of nearly 4,000 people on the mountain. She and Xiao Bao personally led 3,000 light cavalrymen to cause trouble for Tubo. After the rain stopped, the road was difficult to travel. Perhaps all the generals were unwilling to attack the enemy under such circumstances, but Wang Wan was an exception. The things she learned didn't care about the influence of the weather. In the past, the troops she commanded were all-weather combat troops. To others, this kind of weather was unbearable, but to her, it was an opportunity. So what if the ground was muddy? If her side was muddy, so were the others. Whoever could take advantage of the terrain would be able to win. In addition, with the help of clouds and binoculars, Wang Wan was confident that she could fight Tubo again in this kind of environment. She would make them tremble when they saw her in the future. The 3,000 light cavalrymen set off with 5 days' worth of food and a large number of arrows. Their target was the 3 troops that had just gathered to Tuta's 7,000 people. Chapter 629. Bows and crossbows are hidden, saddles and horses are hung, hooves are torrential, angrily trampling Jin Chuan. Life is on the blade, soul is on the bottom, arrows are like a storm, wind is like a storm. Ask the enemy if they are afraid. Their bodies are in the yellow sand, blood is spilled. Looking at the Jiang Qianghua pagoda from afar, he sneered and flicked his hair. Perhaps it was because of the rain, but Kumyuk had been in a bad mood for the past 2 days. Looking at the sky that was not completely clear after the rain, she always felt a chilly wind blowing, even if it was in the tent. In fact, he knew what he was worried about. He was afraid that he would follow in the footsteps of Tutta. 20,000 people against 7,000 people. It did not seem to be a lot, but the other side only had a little more than 10,000 people. At that time, the Tang army was still in low morale and did not have much rest. At this time, the Tang army's morale was so high that his own army could not compare with it. Moreover, they hid and rested for such a long time. It was true that the general was the courage of the soldiers. It was true that the same soldiers became different after changing the general. His own army also had 20,000 people, and the logistics department of 6,000 people sent out did not lose too many people. But why did he not dare to completely follow the order to launch a battle line to kill? Was he afraid? Was he afraid of a 9-year-old little girl? Kimukahu was not surprised that the other side killed so many people on his side with such a small number of people. The most powerful generals in history were even more powerful than this. He could not understand how a 9-year-old girl could be like those famous generals. If she was on his side, he would feel that the little girl fought a battle pleasing to the eye, but she was not on his side. Reporting, General, the scouts of the 1st and 2nd teams of the Wind Cavalry encountered the enemy and retreated. Only 21 people out of 300 escaped. Just as Ku Mu and Ku, who were thinking about how to follow the order without losing too many soldiers, a messenger ran in from outside the tent and reported to them. Kimukahu did not seem to have any reaction after hearing it. He looked at the scenery outside the tent motionlessly. The messenger did not dare to disturb him and stood aside to wait. After a while, Kimukahu said, "No wonder I always felt a gust of cold wind. It turned out that I was targeted. It seems that the Tang army is ready to attack my army. Well, tell me, what kind of enemy did the 1st and 2nd teams of the Wind Cavalry encounter?" Reporting, the brothers who came back said that they encountered about 3,000 Tang soldiers. They were lightly armored, and their arrows were like flying locusts. When they came face to face, a large number of brothers around fell. Fortunately, the road was muddy, so they managed to escape. The messenger was also worried. He was afraid of encountering the main force of the Tang army, and that little girl. Kumu and Ku, who began to ponder and muttered, 3,000 light cavalry. This means that they are the ones who ambushed the logistics. The main force of the Tang army is still on the mountain. Mud is good. The messenger listened attentively. He didn't know what to do with the mud, so he could only wait for the general's order. Pass down my order. The 6,000 men of the 8 battalions that were sent to reinforce Tatagaritu are to return immediately. The 6 battalions will split into 6 groups and spread out the distance between each other. We will search as we return. Gather all of our cavalrymen. Equip them with light armor and crossbows. Wait for orders. Find Sang Chi-Chi. Kumuk, who originally did not want to let the headquarters go up, but now that the enemy had their eyes on them, they had no choice but to go up, even if they knew who would be at a disadvantage. After the messenger left, Kumuk laughed sinisterly and muttered to himself, "Little girl, this time I'll let you know that not everyone can let you come and go as you please." Wang Wan, who had defeated nearly 300 Tufan soldiers, led her troops and left. She ran into a forest and started to get busy. Shui Yun flew down and told Zhang Yingshan the news on the mountain. She then flew away and continued to monitor the situation on the mountain. She also sent an order. Zhang Xiaobao took out the small pot on his back and lit the fire. He was busy making food for Wang Wan. He was only making food for her. Fighting a war was also very mentally taxing. She had to replenish her nutrients. He poured oil and slowly boiled the sugar. After a while, the sugar changed color and the fragrance floated out. The surrounding soldiers, who were looking at them, inhaled the fragrance. However, no one came forward. No one wanted to share the food. This was a meal for the general, so that he could lead them to victory. Zhang Xiaobao took out pepper and a few other seasonings and stir-fried them in the pot. He looked at the cut meat at the side and sighed, "Ai. It's not easy to get some pork here. I'll just make do with the wild pork. I've already marinated it with white pepper, starch, and wine. The fragrant red braised meat needs to be cooked slowly. It will only taste good after 2 hours." Wang Wan leaned against a tree and rested while thinking about what the enemy would do. Occasionally, she would look at Xiao Bao, who was making the red braised meat for her. She revealed a happy smile. During this period of time, Xiao Bao had taken the time to make good food for her. He would do whatever he was told to do. He never felt that he shouldn't listen to a woman just because he was a man. The surrounding soldiers were also envious of General Wang. Although men didn't cook much, the little young master's food was really delicious. Just by smelling it, it was fragrant. When they heard the people from the logistics camp calling him, it seemed that the little young master had a higher status at home. They didn't expect that he would not fight for power with General Wang and would do whatever he was told to do. This kind of man was not easy to find. Yes, a woman like General Wang was also not easy to find. When the little young master was at home, would he be bullied by General Wang, who could command him? As everyone was thinking, one person unconsciously said it. Zhang Xiaobao was watching the fire. When he heard this person, he turned his head and asked, "You haven't married yet?" This person was shocked and thought that he was doomed. Why didn't he guard his mouth and let the little young master hear it? He quickly shook his head and replied, "No, my family is poor. I can't talk about a wife." "Oh, don't be afraid of being poor. We are poor, but we are not poor. You fought with your life in Tubo. When you go back, you won't be poor anymore. For those who fought with my little madam, if they died, their families would double the compensation. If they were alive, they would also receive a large amount of money. When the time comes, I will help you find a wife. You have to work hard," Zhang Xiaobao said gently to this person. Okay. When this person thought that he would have a wife in the future, he immediately felt embarrassed. He lowered his head and blushed. But in his heart, he felt that something was wrong. He had clearly offended the little young master. Why would the little young master be kind enough to find a wife for him? Zhang Xiaobao did not expose him. He looked at this person carefully and remembered this person. If this person could really go back alive, he would find a wife for him, the kind that was good at fighting. Let's see if this person would still badmouth him. Another person at the side joined in and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Little young master, I already have a wife at home. I don't know if I can get a concubine when I go back. My cooking is not good at all." "I don't care if you get a concubine. If you have the ability, you can get one yourself. I will teach you how to sing a song, okay?" Zhang Xiaobao looked at this person and said, Okay. I will sing, and you will remember. Maybe I will say goodbye. Won't come back again. Do you understand? Do you understand? Maybe I'll fall down and never rise again. Do you still want to wait forever? Zhang Xiaobao sang the song with a slightly altered melody to the man, and the people around him also listened. Little young master, I thought about it and decided not to find a concubine. The one at home makes clothes that fit me very well. Everyone in the village praises her. They also say that I am very lucky. I won't marry, I won't marry. If you don't marry, then rest. You still have to kill enemies. Dignity needs to be exchanged with blood. After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he added some firewood under the pot. He turned around and went to Wang Wan. He squatted down and massaged Wang Wan's head. At this time, Wang Wan was almost done thinking. While enjoying Zhang Xiaobao's massage, she said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Xiaobao, you sang really well just now. Why don't I change the military songs that I learned before and teach them? It can also improve their morale." Okay, but the premise is that you have to make more money so that you can give enough money to support the army. In the end, the Tang Dynasty couldn't raise an army, and there was chaos. The soldiers listen to who is who. Let's give the money to Xiao Li and let him take out. Then the army will listen to him. I like him more. He is very tough when dealing with the outside world. If we follow him, we can fight a few more wars. In the future, your family will eventually be separated. You can't always follow my family. You need to build your own family. Your younger brother will be supporting your family in the future. You need to have a good reputation so that you can protect him before he can start his own family. Zhang Xiaobao thought that most of the content of the lyrics was different from what it was now. For example, the love of the motherland. The people now listen to who raised them, especially the soldiers of the various regional commanders. This is not good. They need to centralize power. Money. Everything needs to be done with money. They also need to use Li Longji's name. Otherwise, they can start an uprising. Wang Wan also agreed with Zhang Xiaobao's suggestion. In the future, they will fight whoever is not satisfied. Weak countries don't have diplomacy. They need to occupy more land and get more resources first. You can decide how to earn money. This time, I am prepared to cripple Tubo. I will make sure that they will not be able to recover within 10 years. Kamukahu's 6,000 men have retreated. They are retreating in different battalions. What is he trying to do? Zhang Xiaobao asked the information he just received when he heard about the war. What else can he do? Shuiyun is not back yet. When it comes back, let it go to Kamukahu's side to take a look. He must be gathering the cavalry. He wants to use 6,000 men as bait to waste our horses and arrows. It is too obvious. He is smarter than Tadamatu. He knows how to use bait. He probably knows that we can only use light cavalry to fight against light cavalry. Wang Wan was very familiar with this kind of thing. There were many examples. For example, during the tank battle at Station 2, they could stop their own tanks from moving and let the enemy constantly look for suitable places to attack to deplete the enemy's fuel. Would a tank without fuel still be a tank? Zhang Xiaobao was relieved when he heard that Wang Wan had a plan. Compared to Wang Wan, Kamukahu was still inexperienced. By the time Zhang Xiaobao finished cooking the red braised pork, everyone had rested enough. Wang Wan had a good meal and ordered the 3rd Cavalry Battalion, Light Cavalry, 1st Battalion, 1st Battalion, 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion, 1st 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 Battalion. 1st Battalion, 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 3rd Battalion, 1st 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 Battalion. 1st Battalion, 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 1st Battalion. Or do you want someone to send a letter and recruit the 2,000, or so people from Tata Shimadu on the mountain? There's no need. Could it be that you want my Tubo's 67,000 people to move out at the same time to capture a single girl and deal with her 10,000 people? The other 2 divisions can't possibly move against me either. That way, I'll get the most credit. So how could they be willing to do it? The more than 2,000 people of Tata Kiddu on the mountain had no use for them. They were already scared out of their wits. This little girl didn't know her limits. Did she really think that she was invincible just because she had a few pimples with Tata? If she was given another 10 years, she might be able to become a famous general of her generation. However, I won't give her this chance. Kumuku, who vetoed the suggestion of the person beside him. In fact, it wasn't that he didn't want to find other people to join forces with him. However, just like what he was thinking, other people wouldn't be so cooperative. They might even be waiting for him to return empty-handed. This time, the person beside him didn't say anything. He could only hope that the general's plan would succeed. However, he didn't know why, but he felt that something was wrong. If that little girl Cuckoo was really powerful, wouldn't she be able to see that the 6,000 people were a trap? The Tang army's light cavalry didn't care about what others thought. They listened to General Wang's orders and carried it out very seriously. Even if it consumed a lot of horsepower and arrows, they still persisted in attacking and harassing. Even if they could only kill 10 people at a time, they would shoot the moment they entered the shooting range. They definitely wouldn't give the enemy a chance to counterattack. By the time Kumuku, whose 4,000 light cavalry arrived, half of the 7 battalions had already been killed. Just like that, 2,600 people were killed. When the 4,000 light cavalry arrived, a loud and clear eagle cry sounded in the sky. The Tang army's light cavalry immediately began to retreat and meet up with Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao's group. They started to run towards the north. However, their speed was obviously not as fast as before. The horses' noses were constantly blowing out white gas. The 4,000 light cavalry, who came with a purpose, didn't care about their own injured people. They urged their horses to chase after them. Each one of them had their bows and arrows ready. When they were within the shooting range, they would shoot. This distance was not a normal distance. The other party's horses were still running forward. Furthermore, they were in the wind, so they had to be very close to them. The Tubo people's shooting range was not enough. However, the Tang army's shooting range was enough. Each of them continuously turned around and shot without aiming. They let the Tubo people completely understand how difficult it was to chase after the light cavalry. When the Tubo cavalry had more than 400 people, they finally caught up to the shooting range. Just as they were about to shoot, many ropes suddenly popped out from the ground in the middle of the group. The Tang cavalry in front of them also took out something from their pockets and threw it on the ground. It was a triangular nail-shaped wooden block that they made when they were resting in the forest. When the Tubo people's horses stepped on these wooden blocks, they couldn't run anymore. Although it wasn't as powerful as iron, it wasn't too bad. Those who were caught by the ropes directly jumped down from the horses or were pressed down by the horses. There was no way for them to escape. Half of the Tubo cavalry were directly taken down. The remaining half didn't need to chase after them. They were all carefully controlling their horses to walk the maze. At this time, a rain of spears suddenly shot out from the forest, followed by shouts of killing. Shui Yun shouted excitedly in the sky. It was very clever and didn't come down to do any sneak attacks. It was also afraid of being shot by the arrows. Perhaps it knew that it had completed a very important task and sent the 4,000 people here to prepare. The remaining Tubo cavalry knew that they were finished. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also thought so. They didn't turn back to continue attacking. They led their people to rest and prepare for the next battle. At this time, Chi was running with all his might with 5,000 light infantry. He had received the order to set off in advance. He bypassed the main battlefield and advanced towards the villages where the Tang army was hiding in the east. He wanted to ambush the main force of the Tang army that was retreating. He ran until he was almost out of breath, but he didn't dare to think about resting. Speed was the most important thing in war. If he didn't make it in time because of laziness, then he didn't need to live anymore. The position in the east was indeed good. He didn't see any Tang army scouts, nor did he find the bodies of his own people killed here. Chi felt that he was about to make a great contribution. But he didn't know that if he didn't run to the north and continue to go east, he would have found the 4,000 people of the Tang army that retreated to Pingzhou. Among them, there were more than 1,000 local people. With his 5,000 people, he could definitely easily take down these 4,000 people who didn't have much fighting power. After Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan rested for a while and recovered a lot of strength, most of the 4,000 pursuing cavalry had been dealt with. Only the slowest ones at the back were lucky enough to go back and report. Every dead person was replaced, and the horses that could still be used were brought back. Of the 4,000 chasing horses, only 700 were still usable. The rest were finished. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan led people to cut the horse meat. They also filled the first pile of water bags in the nearby river with water. They collected the bows and arrows of the Tubo people and distributed them to those who didn't have them. After all these things were done, Chi's troops also ran into the village for a short rest. They were waiting for an ambush in a while. Wang Wan didn't give him a chance to rest. She led everyone in the direction of the village. When Shui Yun first found this group of people, she and Xiaobao were frightened. They thought that this group of people went to chase after the retreating logisticians. Kumu didn't slow down with his 5,000 people. They had already arrived at the place where the 8 battalions were located. There were 6,000 people in the 8 battalions. Now, there were only 3,000 who could still fight. More than 2,600 people died, and the rest were seriously injured. It could be said that the losses were heavy. Kumu would be lying if he said that he didn't feel bad. But when he thought that the cavalry in front of him had wiped out the enemy's cavalry, he and Chi would work together to severely injure the rest of the Tang army. That would make up for the losses here. He believed that he could ask where the main force of the Tang army was when he caught the people of the light cavalry. After gathering the remnants of the 8 battalions, Kumu led the team and continued to move forward. He also asked everyone to run. This way, they could move faster and avoid the Tang army from escaping in advance. But what he waited for was not the news of the victory of the cavalry, but more than 100 cavalry who escaped. After a series of inquiries, Kumu gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to break. The main force of the Tang army actually appeared. They even cooperated with the light cavalry to destroy his cavalry. They even used tripping ropes. Was it a precaution in advance, or a plan to deal with his cavalry this time? At this time, Kumu was like Tataru at that time. He had no idea. If it was the former, he could immediately lead people to kill. If it was the latter, should he chase? It turned out that not being able to guess the enemy's tactics on the battlefield was so uncomfortable. Chase, no matter what, I have to see the main force of the Tang army. It's best to see what that little girl looks like. I have to figure it out. Kumyuk made up his mind. The group continued to run forward. After an hour, he saw the corpses of people and horses. Needless to say, they were killed by spears one after another. The blood gathered together and flowed into the river in the east, overflowing the pits left by the horses. When the Tubo people saw this scene, they felt a chill in their hearts. How ruthless a 9-year-old girl was. It was obvious that the people on the ground were the last ones to be stabbed. It was the same for the horses. None of them were left alive. In a more spacious area, someone even used something to write the mark of a pit. The blood was drawn in and formed words, Tubo words. Tubo plotted to destroy the Yangtze River embankment and directly killed 1655 people of Wangjiang in Suzhou. Today I ask you, Tubo, do you still dare to do it? Seeing such words, all the Tubo soldiers were speechless. They finally understood why the Zhang family sent out such a killing god. It turned out that it was to avenge the people who were killed by the spies they sent to Wangjiang in Suzhou. Wasn't this too vengeful? Something that happened so far away actually came to Tubo to look for it? Revenge for the smallest grievance. Ruthless, really ruthless. Now, they finally knew how powerful the Zhang family and Wang family were. They would remember this name. Kumukahu could no longer describe his feelings. Was it fear or anger? Provocation, a blatant provocation. Being questioned by a 9-year-old girl using the blood of their own people in such a condescending manner. This was a challenge to a country with one person's ambition. No matter what he thought in his heart, no matter whether he answered or not, he was at a disadvantage and had no face left. Chase, I want to tear her apart with my own hands. Chase after her and fight it out. I want to see how they can escape. The anger in Kumukahu's heart was finally suppressed by fear. He was a general. If he could swallow this insult and let others threaten his own country, wouldn't he still be human? More than 7,000 Tubo soldiers also thought the same. If they retreated or stopped, wouldn't it be telling the 9-year-old girl that they didn't dare to do it? If that was really the case, they should just find a rope and hang themselves. It was a shame. There was no need to mention the grievance in their hearts. More than 7,000 people ran madly following the tracks. When they reached the front, they were all dumbfounded. The 5,000 people led by Sangchichi were being surrounded and shot by the 7,000 cavalry. From the looks of it, more than 1,000 people had already fallen. Kumukahu finally understood one thing. The Tang army that he was thinking about just now was prepared with ropes and specifically targeted him. Half of the bait he sent out was eaten. The 4,000 light cavalry could be said to be completely annihilated. Right now, this army that was supposed to be used for an ambush was found and killed by the other party. It was impossible for something like this to happen suddenly. It must have been planned by the other party. At this moment, the Tang army that was surrounding and killing suddenly stopped. A group of people came out from the group. In the front were 2 very cute children. When they were a certain distance away, the little girl immediately started to shout the Tubo language that she just learned. Kumukahu, right? Today, I killed your soldiers to take revenge for the people of Wangjiang. Let me ask you personally, do you still dare to do it? Tell me, do you dare? With a PU sound, 2 streaks of blood spurted out from Kumukahu's nose. His body swayed and fell to the side. Everything in front of him was pitch black. When the Tubo soldiers heard this, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. This was too much of a bully. If they had a rich vocabulary like Zhang Xiaobao, they would definitely curse at the top of their lungs F***CK your mother, and then charge over to kill. However, they did not curse like that. They all cursed their own words and charged over without a care for their lives. Retreat, slowly wear them down. I don't believe it. When Wang Wan saw that the other party was charging, she turned her horse around and ran. The Tubo people did not care about the speed of the other party, as they chased after them with all their might. In the end, without Kamu and Kuhu's command, the 7,000 Tubo people who came later, and the remaining 2,500 Tubo people who were surrounded and shot down by Wang Wan's 7,000 cavalrymen. The method was very simple. Run in the direction of the wind, and then charge at the place where the arrows were not lethal. Then, with the help of the wind and inertia, they would shoot arrows and not give the other party a chance to retaliate. Without Kumukahu's command, the Tubo soldiers chased with all their might. They were determined to stop the Tang army. When the Tubo soldiers had chased for more than 30 li, they were already out of strength. After many people were killed, Kumukahu, who was supported by others, woke up. When he saw the situation in front of him, he immediately ordered his troops to retreat and hide in the village. They formed a defensive line and were not allowed to attack. This battle lasted until nighttime. The Tubo soldiers were only left with around 6,000 people. The Tang army also ran out of arrows and piled up their horses. Only then did they retreat. Kumukuhu entered a commoner's house and was in a daze. 20,000 people were plotted against by the other party step by step. They were only left with around 6,000 people. It was over. It was over for him. He clearly did not underestimate the enemy and even made arrangements. How could he not be able to outsmart a little girl? Could it be that she was the reincarnation of a military god? With such a cute and obedient little face and such a rosy little mouth, why were the words that came out of her mouth so infuriating and her actions so ruthless? Kumukuhu was not the only one who did not understand. The Tubo soldiers who felt that they had escaped a calamity would also dream of a little girl with a face full of smiles. She personally held a sword and looked at her brothers beside her one by one. After killing one, she smiled and asked if they dared to do it. As a result, countless people were frightened awake. Just as the Tubo soldiers were thinking that they had nothing to do for the night, a dozen people ran down from the mountain and finally found Kumukuhu. They reported to Kumukuhu, who was still unable to sleep. The 2,400 people who had been recruited on the mountain were attacked by the main force of the Tang army at night and were completely annihilated. They were released and said that the main force was here. They wanted to pass a message to the general and ask if the Tubo soldiers still dared to come. Kumukuhu fainted again. Perhaps it was because she had experienced it before. She woke up faster this time. The first thing she did when she woke up was to kill the people who came back from the mountain. Kumukuhu, who was unable to sleep, was patrolling the temporary camp. At around 6 o'clock a.m., the sound of horse hooves could be heard. Countless fire arrows flew into the village. Night attack. The Tubo soldiers could only drag their tired bodies and prepare to face the enemy. In the end, the enemy shot dozens of people to death and burned down a bunch of houses before retreating. The Tubo soldiers continued to prepare to sleep. However, at around 5 o'clock a.m., the Tang army came again. Fire arrows flew and then retreated. Just like this, Wang Wan ordered her men to seize the time to rest. At the same time, she ordered people to take turns to harass the Tubo soldiers. Kumukuhu clearly knew this tactic, but he could not think of any way to deal with it. If he did not do anything, the enemy would definitely see the opportunity and send a large force to suppress them. He could only go along with it. He hoped that the other two divisions would come to support him soon. He had already sent out a messenger and hoped that it would not be stopped. When the sky was about to brighten, the Tang army finally left and did not continue to harass them. At the same time, the other two divisions also used their fastest speed to send a message, telling them to hold on for one more day and that they would come to support them. Kumukuhu, who had relaxed, ordered a portion of his men to be on guard outside. He did not want to let the rest after the Tang army launched a sneak attack. In the end, an hour later, 3,000 Tang soldiers suddenly appeared in the village. They raised their swords and killed the Tubo soldiers who had just fallen asleep. At the same time, the Tang soldiers outside rushed back to attack from both inside and outside. When the sky was bright, the attack ended. Kumukuhu was relatively lucky. He rode a horse and led his 300 personal guards to break out of the encirclement and escape. The remaining people became the offerings for Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to worship the people of Wangjiang. The two of them brought all the Tang soldiers to temporarily build a sacrificial altar. They kowtowed 3 times and prayed to the 1,000-bone pagoda at Wangjiang in Suzhou. Following that, Wang Wan left behind some words and led everyone to the yellow sand in the north. When Kumukuhu and the other 2 divisions of reinforcements rushed back, they saw that all of their men had died there. There was also a sacrificial altar, and there was also a line of words written with blood. To the souls of the people of Wangjiang, I ask you again, Tubo, do you dare to come again? The people who saw these words and the scene gave the 9-year-old Wang a name, Demon Fiend. When the Demon Fiend was angry, red blood would flow for 1,000 miles. At the same time, they gathered the other 2 divisions of people to inform the other divisions behind them and chased after the yellow sand. They had to take revenge. Chapter 6:31. As Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao led the army north, the people of Pengzhou quickly learned of many things. Pengzhou's government army had urgently recruited 120,000 people. Anyone who was willing to join the army would be given a share. They pretended to be ready to attack Tubo at any time, but they restrained themselves. When the people in the various strongholds in Wing Prefecture heard that the child of this official, who was like a brother to them, was fighting with the Tubo people, they took out the little money they had just saved and insisted that Zhang Zhong buy food for the government soldiers so that they could go and rescue the child as soon as possible. In addition to money, the adult men in the various strongholds also requested that Zhang Zhong organize a logistics camp to go kill the enemy together. Now, the logistics camp's combat ability had been recognized by the local people as being more powerful than the vanguard. Zhang Zhong persuaded and refused, but he didn't dare to tell others the truth. Pengzhou's government army was just putting on a show. When Xiaobao and Cuckoo returned, those who had to farm and those who had to have children would do so. It wasn't to the extent that ordinary people would go to war. Zhang Zhong's days were much better now. With the reputation that his son and daughter-in-law had made, the merchants who were originally hesitant to be invited happily came to Izhou to cooperate with them. They were afraid. The new information that the spies sent back from Tubo made them worry that Zhang Zhong's daughter-in-law would come back and find out that they didn't cooperate with Zhang Zhong. She would lead the troops to wipe them out. They now believed that the Zhang family and the Wang family were the type to seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Based on the abilities of Demon Fiend, they were certain that he didn't need to bring any powerful troops. The usual guards of the Zhang family and Wang family were enough. Wouldn't dealing with people like them be child's play? The pigeons flying from Izhou to the capital were clearly not enough. The capital had already sent 3 cages of pigeons in case of emergency. This time, Gao Lishir brought the news back during the morning court session. Li Longji even temporarily stopped the court session to wait for Gao Lishir to do something else. None of the officials in the court objected. Even LV Enzhua, who had always been at odds with Zhang Zhong, remained silent. Everyone wanted to know if Xiaobao and Cuckoo had returned, or if they were still hiding there, waiting for an opportunity, or if they had been caught. Gao Lishir ran back and forth. This time, he didn't have the time to take a look. He didn't know what was going on in front of him. As soon as he returned to the hall, he looked at Li Longji and waited for him to speak. Previously, Li Longji had slightly lost his composure in front of the 3 officials. This time, in order to avoid such a situation, he first took a few deep breaths to calm himself down before instructing Gao Lishir, "Read." Gao Lishir slowly opened the letter in his hand. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva to soothe his throat, he read, "This official by Go, Yao Chongqin, the commander of the logistics camp in Izhou, Great General Cuckoo, after defeating 13,000 Tufan soldiers, hid in a few villages near the Dachuan River. He formed a group of 3,000 light cavalry and attacked Kumu Kuhu's troops. Kumu Kuhu led the troops to encircle and annihilate them. With 8 battalions of infantry as bait, 4,000 light cavalry attempted to devour them. Another 5,000 infantry hurriedly marched around the village, vowing to destroy the main force of the Tang army on the Jinchuan front line. Kumu Kuhu personally led 5,000 officers and 4,000 light cavalry to hold the rear. One day later, 8 battalions of infantry successfully lured Cuckoo, exhausting his horses, dispersing his arrows, and exhausting his soldiers. When the 4,000 light cavalry arrived, Cuckoo's light cavalry was already exhausted. When he read this, Gao Lishir's hand trembled. His throat suddenly became dry. He didn't make a sound and looked down. The people in the court felt their hearts skip a beat. It was over. Li Longji, who had long been mentally prepared, still couldn't control himself. His expression changed as he angrily said, "Read." "Yes." Only then did Gao Lisha realize that when he didn't make a sound and continued to read, his expression became a lot better. By this time Cuckoo had led the light cavalry to kill more than 2,600 of the 8 battalions of infantry. When they encountered the enemy's light cavalry, they ran with all their might, luring the Tufan's light cavalry to pursue them. Later on, they ambushed the 4,000 Tang army on the mountain, tripping the horses and throwing spears. When Kumukuhu led 5,000 men to arrive, the 4,000 light cavalry were all gone. Then they drew blood on the ground, saying that the common people of Wangjiang and Shuzhou had died miserably. This disaster was attributed to Tufan. Would Tufan dare? Furious, Kumukuhu led his troops to continue the pursuit. At this time, Cuckoo led 7,000 light cavalry to kill 5,000 Tufan troops, who took a detour. In front of the two armies, they asked again if Tufan dared. Kumukuhu was so angry that he fainted. He seized the opportunity to attack and kill, forcing Kumukuhu's troops to enter the village and defend. In the middle of the night, they turned to the river and killed Kumukuhu's more than 2,000 men. Then they attacked in batches throughout the night. At dawn, the 3,000 Tang warriors who had been lying in ambush in the tunnel under the village joined forces with Cuckoo's troops to attack from the inside and broke Kumukuhu. Kumukuhu took advantage of the chaos to escape and led the other 2 troops to rendezvous. Blood flowed like a river in the village, bodies everywhere. There was also a sacrificial altar, offering sacrifices to the common people of Wangjiang, asking again if Tufan dared. Tufan's 2 troops pursued again, pointing their swords to the yellow sand. Cuckoo was a demon. Someone wrote a poem. Tenderface is sweet and beautiful. Laughing and talking slaughter the world. Corpses piled up like a river. Asking June dared. The more Gao Lisha recited, the better his mood was, the faster he recited. After he finished reciting, he was thirsty and snatched the cup specially made by the Zhang family from Zhang Shua's hand. He unscrewed the lid and gulped down a mouthful of water. Zhang Shua did not have any intention to snatch the cup back. He was stunned for a moment before he said, Good kill, good question. Let's see if Tufan still dared. According to what you said, Cuckoo and Xiao Bao have already led their men to kill more than 35,000 Tufan soldiers. If they could come back, they did not come back, and instead led the 2 Tufan troops of 40,000 men to kill in the desert. The people who reacted nodded one after another. It seemed that Cuckoo had not killed enough. Li Longji also picked up the cup of tea beside him and drank it. He usually did not drink when he was in court, but now he was afraid that he would reveal it because of his agitation. He used this as a cover and hid his face behind the cup. However, his heart was in turmoil. He did not expect that it was indeed that little lass, Cuckoo, who was giving orders. This little lass was really capable, and her heart was really ruthless. She did not show any mercy when she killed people. He also had portraits of her and Xiao Bao here. These 2 were very good-looking children, especially when they smiled and showed 2 dimples. How could they kill until they vomited blood and corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river? How much hatred did this little lass have to become like this? The commoners of Wangjiang should be satisfied. In the future, if Zhang Zhong were to become an official somewhere, no one would dare to make a move against the commoners of that place. The Dimonfien's reputation was built on human lives. Her delicate face was sweet and beautiful, and her laughter could slaughter the world. It was indeed so. Good. When she came back, he would not let her go out and raise her. When she grew up, wouldn't she be even more powerful? At that time, when there was a war elsewhere, if she really could not handle it, he would send her out. When Li Longji thought of this, he calmed down and passed the cup of water to the side. Wei Wei looked at all the civil and military officials in the imperial court with a smile, waiting for them to calm down. All the officials in the hall were also digesting the news that they received. It would be a lie to say that they were not excited. More than 35,000 Tubo people were killed, and the Tubo soldiers were toyed with. Especially when they were asked, it was truly too delightful. Of course, there was also one person who was feeling afraid while feeling happy for the current dynasty. That person was LV Yenzhua. He knew that he had done a lot of bad things behind the scenes. Although he had never succeeded, he had still done it. Today, he even said that the emperor gave Cuckoo and Xiaobao too high an official position. If Cuckoo were to know about this, all right, this matter has been settled. When the army returns in triumph, we will discuss the matter of the rewards. Where were we just now? Was it that Cuckoo and Xiaobao were given too high an official position? Then what position should they be demoted to? Or was it like what LV Qing said, that the two children should not be given official positions? LV Qing, say something else. At this moment, Li Longji opened his mouth and looked at LV Yenzhua. This official is here. LV Yenzhua had no choice but to stand up. He hated himself for saying this today. Wouldn't it be fine if he said this a day later? Wang Wan had made such a huge contribution. Even if she was given an official position, no one would be able to say anything. Otherwise, she would be sent to fight against the Tubo army. LV Yenzhua, who stood up, looked around and coughed. Your Majesty, what I mean is that we should wait for them to grow up before giving them official positions. They are still young. Young? A general by the side widened his eyes and asked. They are not young either. That, Gan Luo was proficient in politics at a young age, and Xiang Lu was a Kong Shi at the age of 7. They are not young, but this official is afraid that I am the monarch of Lu country and the Qing king? That I can't protect Xiaobao and Cuckoo? That the Tubo army is the one that killed Xiang Lu, and that Cuckoo can't return in the end? Li Longji's mouth fell again as he stared at LV Yenzhua. LV Yenzhua's heart tightened. He knew that he had said something wrong. If Cuckoo and Xiaobao really didn't return, he would be the first to suffer. Wasn't he saying that the emperor was as useless as the monarch of Lu country, that he couldn't protect the capable people of the country? After Li Longji asked this question, he didn't wait for LV Yenzhua to explain and immediately ordered, issue an edict. Order Jiannan to mobilize the elite troops to attack Jinchuan and Gada City. Let me occupy those two cities. Why can't I protect the two children who fought for the country? Even if I have to use people to fill in the gaps, I will bring back Cuckoo and Xiaobao. There is no need to discuss the matter of the two of them being mere empty officials. Is there anything else? Li Longji was really angry. Was he that kind of muddle-headed and incompetent emperor? He was waiting for Xiaobao and Cuckoo to help him more in the future. Not to mention that the two adorable children had an expert to teach them. Even if they were as monstrous as Xiang Lu, he still had to protect them. That was only for the monstrous talents of other countries, not for Great Tang. The officials began to discuss other matters. All of them tried their best to avoid the Zhang family and Wang family, so as to avoid being implicated. LV Yenzhua also kept quiet. If he continued to find trouble, he would be the first one to be torn apart. The first thing that was sent out was the imperial edict. Li Longji was originally prepared to fight with the Tubo army. Originally, he wanted Guitu to launch a sneak attack, and after the Tubo army attacked, Jiannan would mobilize the army to launch a successful counterattack. Since a large portion of the Tubo army was destroyed and a portion was lured away, it was the perfect time to launch an attack. At the same time, it would make things easier for Cuckoo. He believed that Cuckoo would definitely be able to lead the troops to defeat the Tubo army and return victorious. He heard that the two children were good cooks, and perhaps he would have the opportunity to taste it personally. Chapter 632. This time, the news was received from Wing Prefecture after the first two pigeons had flown for half a day. Perhaps the second pigeons had flown faster, and the first pigeons had arrived not long after. The matters in the imperial court had already been discussed, but the court had yet to be dismissed. It was a good opportunity to see if there was any new news. It shouldn't be bad news. Even if they couldn't win against Wan, they could still escape. The two people that were sent after her could escape with the eagle. Sure enough, it wasn't bad news. In the letter, it was written that Yun Shuifei had made arrangements after arriving at Pengzhou. He wanted Pengzhou to take over the logistics and Tubo's 4,000 people, as well as provisions, and send the commoners to Wing Prefecture. At the same time, he wanted the imperial court to go to Sanshui County to find the person who raised the eagle with Zhang Ying. He wanted this group of people to go to Pengzhou, and when they arrived, they would cooperate with Pengzhou to make a feint attack against Tubo. This would slightly restrain the Tubo's armored cavalry. Then he would transfer 10,000 elite troops from Jianan Circuit to secretly go to the villages with tunnels under the cover of the feint attack. Don't forget to go to Wing Prefecture to get things when you go there. It was the charcoal and vegetable oil that had been collected some time ago. Bring them to the villages and wait for him to come back. Hide well and don't be discovered. When he returned to the army, they would cooperate with him. He wanted to send a general who didn't need to be too capable, but had to be obedient. When the officials in the imperial court heard this news, some of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Cuckoo, this little lass, was too formidable, right? She had already started making arrangements for the following matters. She was really bold. She actually wanted to ambush Tubo at that place. Didn't she already use that village once? Wasn't she afraid of being discovered if she used it again? Didn't she start buying the vegetable oil and charcoal a long time ago before Zhang Zhong arrived? She even wanted to bring it to the villages. Could it be that she would need it at that time? What was it for? How was Cuckoo planning to use 10,000 people to ambush them? Li Longji didn't expect that Cuckoo's arrangements would be so far away. She had already prepared provisions in Wing Prefecture, and even asked him to go to Sanshui County to find the eagle. She also made arrangements to send Pengzhou to make a feint attack. If this was the case, wouldn't his previous decree disrupt Cuckoo's arrangements? This arrangement was no longer a tactical one, but a strategic one. Should he take the lead, or should he listen to the little girl? Li Longji found himself in a difficult position. At this moment, LV Yenzhua felt that his opportunity had come. He looked enviously at the officials in the imperial court who had beautiful cups. Thinking that no one in his family had ever given him such a cup, he felt that he could build a good relationship with the Zhang family. Thus, he stepped forward and said to Li Longji, "Your Majesty, there's something that I don't know if I should say or not." "If you don't know, then don't say it." Li Longji was still angry with LV Yenzhua, so when he heard LV Yenzhua's question, he didn't give him any face at all. LV Yenzhua was stunned for a moment. That wasn't right. What followed should have been "it's fine." Why did it change? "Your Majesty, may I be so bold as to say something?" LV Yenzhua shamelessly ignored Li Longji's warning. Seeing that the higher-ups didn't object, he continued. "This subject thinks that Miss Cuckoo is a rarely seen general. She must have her reasons for making such arrangements. There is no harm in following her instructions." "Then did we issue the wrong decree?" Li Longji asked. "No, how could your Majesty be wrong? Cuckoo isn't wrong either. This subject thinks that Cuckoo had Pengzhou feign an attack because she was afraid that the generals leading the army would be at a disadvantage. After all, the Tufan cavalry was mobilized, so she had Falcon follow. She was worried about the other generals and didn't understand them well. She was worried that our court would suffer too many casualties. Does your Majesty agree?" LV Yenzhua continued to explain to avoid being misunderstood. Li Longji thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Yes." All the civil and military officials in the imperial court also admitted that they couldn't find a general as powerful as Cuckoo. There were generals who could win battles, but they couldn't find one who could kill so many enemies with so few casualties. It wasn't like in the past, when there were still many famous generals. Seeing that the emperor agreed, LV Yenzhua continued, "However, our court can't always let Cuckoo lead the army every time there is a battle. Wouldn't our court have no one? Your Majesty can send troops from Jianan Circuit. At the same time, send 10,000 elite soldiers to follow Cuckoo's instructions. As for the deployment, Cuckoo is a famous general and will adjust accordingly. If your Majesty agrees, this subject will personally go to Sanshui County to train the Falcon to coordinate with our court's march." This subject's neck was stiff last night and has already had someone check it. The effect wasn't good. This subject also wants to go to day hospital to have a look. In order to ease the atmosphere, Lvenzwa shook his head. He really felt that he couldn't move. All the officials in the imperial court laughed. Even Li Longji didn't have a sullen expression like before. In that case, Minister LV will be tired from the journey. Li Longji also wanted to see if Cuckoo could immediately adjust according to the layout. In his mind, Wang Wan was already a famous general. A famous general naturally understood that the situation was not constant, and the water was impermanent. In any case, the danger would be smaller if the troops were sent out. Even if the matter was settled, Lvenzwa found an opportunity to ease the situation. Of course, he wouldn't take a carriage. There was a boat, and the river wasn't frozen yet. Wang Wan was still leading people to escape. This time, she was satisfied. After killing so many people, when the news spread to Shuzhou, the people there would definitely cry, and then be very happy to avenge them. The message from the eagle was written by Zhang Xiaobao. He also had his own arrangements. Wang Wan didn't expect Zhang Xiaobao to have such a plan on the way to Yizhou. Riding on the horse, she said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Xiaobao, I found that you are really suitable for logistics. You have arranged everything that you can think of, and that might happen. Otherwise, you would have to do it now. I will reward you by making me red braised pork tonight." Women are starting to rebel when they have the ability, right? You want to reward me by making you food? Good idea. There are still 40,000 people behind us. I don't want to be buried in the sand. Zhang Xiaobao was very happy. He didn't have nightmares at night because of killing too many people. Wasn't it just a few people dying? His hands were also covered in blood. In the future, when he became a local official, who would dare to use the people to threaten him? The surrounding soldiers were also more relaxed. Although close to 1,000 people had died in this battle, they had still fought to show their might. What was the use of being a soldier if they didn't fight? Only when they killed their enemies until they became obedient and didn't dare to look for trouble would they be able to live a stable life. A peaceful life was built with their lives. Just like the song that General Cuckoo taught, "You don't want to be a soldier. I don't want to be a soldier. Whoever comes will protect the motherland. Who will protect the home?" Which country was afraid of death? Which country's people were waiting to be bullied? Wang Wan didn't care about what Zhang Xiaobao said. In any case, the food she ate had to be prepared by Xiaobao. Others suffered when they were fighting, but her food was not bad. She made a handful of wild vegetables, and Xiaobao could wrap them into a box and fry them. After hearing Zhang Xiaobao mention the arrangements, Wang Wan was not worried. This was her field of expertise. She said, "Take it slow. There's still a few days before we enter the desert. They won't dare to send light cavalry." That's good. I was worried about the lack of horses. All in all, we only have a little more than 8,000 horses. There are still 1,000 people who don't have horses to ride and take turns to run on the ground. Their speed is a drag and they are tired. I know what they are thinking. They want to force us into the desert. They will block us outside and look for an opportunity to destroy us. This time, I will let them know that our army is a strong army that can fight in all weather and all terrain. Be prepared. Hunt more prey. I have use for it. Wang Wan did what she said. She sent people to see if there were any wild beast around. If they encountered some small village, the poultry and livestock raised by the people were also fine. If they used weapons to exchange with the people would be very willing. The two groups following behind did think so. They didn't dare to send cavalry to chase and kill. It was easy to be schemed against, but it was easier to drive the Tang army into the desert. They would see what they could do when the time came. Kumukahu had no right to make a decision. In fact, according to his idea, they should fight now. Even if the Tang army died, it was still a little bit. How could 40,000 people lose to less than 10,000 Tang soldiers? But the army belonged to others. He couldn't command it. He was only allowed to go with the troops because they pitted him. Kumukahu gathered his remaining soldiers. In total, there were less than 1,000 people. He barely managed to form a battalion. Half of them were injured. They were given to him by the two groups. It turned out that Tatatata's soldiers were taken in. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to form a battalion. After following behind for 2 days, Kumukahu had enough rest. As long as he didn't think about the deaths of so many of his men, he would be like a normal person. He always wanted to take revenge for the deaths of so many of his men. Seeing that the Tang army in front was not moving fast, he felt that this was an opportunity. Hence, he found the leader of the other group, Lufu Tuda. He discussed with Lufu Tuda about borrowing some soldiers. He didn't need a lot. He just needed 3,000 cavalry. He brought his men and ran to the front to attack. If he did this, at least the Tang army's deployment would be disrupted. Otherwise, why would the Tang army be walking slowly in front of them? Could it be that he and his men were so scared that they didn't have the courage to go up against the 9,000 soldiers? After Lufu Tuda heard Kumukahu's idea, he decisively rejected it. He meant that Kumukahu, how dare you say such a thing? Don't you know how your own soldiers are being taken care of? Kumukahu returned to his tent gloomily. Looking at the 700 soldiers in the battalion, he shook his head. He could only give up on this idea. He felt like he had lost an opportunity, but Lufu Tuda was tempted. The reason he rejected Kumukahu was because he didn't want Kumukahu to succeed. If that happened, Kumukahu would be able to make up for his loss. That wouldn't do. The reason why he let Kumukahu follow was because he had fought with the Tang army before. Even if he lost, he would still understand the Tang army in some aspects. Thinking about Kumukahu's plan, Lufu Tuda decided to follow it. Wang Wan and Zhang Xiaobao were still busy with their preparations when Shui Yun flew to Pingzhou. It would probably take another 2 hours before it returned with news. Very quickly, night fell. Zhang Xiaobao baked spring pancakes for Wang Wan, braised some wild vegetables with salt, stir-fried some shredded meat with rabbit meat, and made a bowl of soup with some bird's egg that he picked up. Although the ingredients were few and simple, the taste was not bad. Wang Wan rolled up a pancake and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "When we go back, why don't we open a small shop and find 2 people to be workers? I'll be in charge of the accounts, and you'll cook. We have a big shop. Why don't you say that I'll be in charge of the accounts? I'm familiar with this. If I don't do it well and just lose money, won't I die of exhaustion if the food is delicious?" Shui Yun is back. Let's see what it says. Zhang Xiaobao watched Wang Wan eat. He was happy that Wang Wan was enjoying it. Of course, he felt that it would be better if Wang Wan could watch him eat. At this time, Shui Yun flapped its wings and landed. It rubbed its head affectionately with Zhang Ying and cried twice. No one knew what it was trying to say. They just watched Zhang Ying stroke Shui Yun's head and feed it something. Then, he took off the thing tied to his leg. "Little young master, little miss, this is a letter for master." Zhang Ying could read quite a few words and knew who it was just by looking at the cover. He said as he passed it over, "My father? What happened to my father? Did something happen in Wing Prefecture?" Zhang Xiaobao took the letter and was puzzled. Maybe he wants us to go back early. Xiao Bei and the others probably miss us. Let's take a look. Wang Wan stuffed the last bit of the cake into her mouth and said vaguely. Zhang Xiaobao was also a little homesick. He didn't ask for much, as long as he could see his family every day. That kind of happiness was something that ordinary people couldn't understand. He opened the letter, scanned it from beginning to end, and threw it to Wang Wan. He tapped his face with his hand and thought about something. Wang Wan hadn't read the letter yet. When she saw Zhang Xiaobao's actions, she knew that something had happened. Someone had been marked by Xiaobao, and it was a very serious kind. The consequences wouldn't be good. She took the letter and read it. The first part was written by parents to their children. They said that it was cold, so they should be careful outside, eat more meat, and go back early. If they couldn't win, they should run. Don't foolishly fight with others. Everything at home was fine. The second part was written about recent events. It said that the people of Wing Prefecture were very cooperative. Merchants from other places also came to invest a lot. It was estimated that after the new year, they would be able to build a foundation here. Even if they weren't here in the future, the people of Wing Prefecture could continue to live a good life. They harvested quite a lot of fruits and used them to make fruit wine. They also harvested grain. Recently, the price of grain was much higher than before. In the past, a bushel of millet cost 16 copper coins. Now, it had risen to 24 copper coins. Perhaps the price would fall after the autumn harvest. Their family did not lack money, so they accepted the expensive grain. It was important to plan early to make wine. The growth of hemp this year was good. Originally, they thought that the price would be cheaper, but it also rose by half. Many merchants here heard about the matter of set breeding and began to buy livestock and poultry. Fortunately, their family had bought a lot of mules in advance. Should they buy more? Or let the people of Wing Prefecture raise chickens in the mountains, just like in Sanshui County? This was what was written in the letter. It didn't mention who was scheming, who didn't cooperate, or what kind of decree the imperial court had sent. It seemed very normal. Wang Wan was puzzled. What was in the letter that made Zhang Xiaobao do such a scheming action? After waiting for a while, Wang Wan saw that Zhang Xiaobao was still meditating. Finally, she couldn't help but ask, "Xiaobao, are you in trouble? You've never thought about things for such a long time before." Zhang Xiaobao shook his head, took the letter, and read it from beginning to end. He threw it aside and said, "Troublesome, it's really troublesome. If I were at home, it would be easier. I ran so far away and can't do it at any time. Say, in an economic war, how slow is slow, and how fast is fast. When it's slow, it can be done for a year and slowly plan. When it's fast, it's a race against time. If it's slow, it can't be done. If it's a step late, it can't be done. Isn't this troublesome?" I asked you to read the letter. Did the letter say that it's an economic war? Wang Wan took the letter and read it carefully. There was nothing wrong with it. It was normal for the price of grain to rise. Now that the autumn harvest was coming, it was the time for the last round of price increases. Then, the price would drop a lot. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and said, "Yes, an economic war, and it's coming fiercely. If I'm not wrong, it must be someone from Tubo behind the scenes. He's a master. Why haven't I heard of such a talent in Tubo? If I were in Wing Prefecture now, I wouldn't be afraid. Can he overturn the heavens? Why can't I see it?" Wang Wan didn't doubt Zhang Xiaobao's judgment. When a person like Xiaobao operated, it was like fighting a war. It was hard to predict, but it was hard to figure out what was wrong with the ordinary information in the letter. After asking, she saw Zhang Xiaobao's eyes looking at the night sky in a daze. Wang Wan thought about it again, but she still couldn't figure it out. She nudged Zhang Xiaobao and asked, "Don't tell me that's your perception." "Perception? Oh, perception is sometimes right and sometimes wrong. I believe in perception, but I believe in data analysis more. Let me tell you. Look, the price of grain has risen. It's normal. It's the last price increase before the autumn harvest, and then it should fall. Fortunately, we can make a profit in the process and buy the farmer's grain at a low price. The price of hemp has risen. It's normal. Hemp is also a crop, and it's spread. Ordinary people don't see any problems. After all, my father's reputation is there. Looking at it separately, everything is under control, but it's not normal when they are put together. In the simplest way, the oil companies in our country are carrying out a unified rectification in order to obtain greater profits in the future, so as to improve the oil refining technology and standardize it. What do you think the consequences will be?" Zhang Xiaobao asked Wang Wan after analyzing a little. "Consequences? Of course, the price of refined oil will rise. But this behavior is wrong. The rectification can't be unified. It needs to be done in batches. Otherwise, it will have a bad impact on society. Isn't it obvious that they are shouting at the state?" Wang Wan followed Zhang Xiaobao's train of thought. "That's right. The reason why the oil companies are doing this must be because of the political faction behind them. especially when they're about to change industries. This is because it doesn't just affect refined oil, but also the overall economic environment of a society. The stability of prices is supported by productivity and the transportation industry. The unified rectification of the oil companies is using their own losses to threaten a certain faction. What if they restrict electricity? The transportation costs increase and the energy consumption increase. Just these two factors at the same time can cause the price of social goods to rise by more than 40%. Zhang Xiaobao analyzed the things that might happen to him and Wang Wan at that time, and then said, "What I want to say now is what my father wrote in the letter. Our plan to rearing livestock includes livestock, but only pigs. The rearing of sheep and cows is still under experiment. My father said in the letter that the price of livestock and poultry will rise, and so will the price of grain and hemp. The problem lies in my father's words. Fortunately, my family bought a lot of mules in advance. Tell me, how do we rearing mules? Mules can indeed give birth occasionally, but normal people can't use mules for rearing mules, right?" Wang Wan nodded. Indeed, who would raise mules for? Could it be that they were not preparing to give birth? If it's according to what you said, it's really the Tibetans behind the scenes. They want to attack our transportation industry, and through this, make the price of goods in Jiannan City rise, and make the people unable to make a living? Wang Wan shivered. She knew the power of economic warfare. For example, Zimbabwe in the past, and the Soviet Union before that. No, if that's the case, I really don't care. What's there to attack in the transportation industry? We don't have trains, cars, or planes here. We don't need animals to pull the goods. Don't we still have boats to transport them by water? Zhang Xiaobao shook his head. When Wang Wan heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, she suddenly realized that it was impossible to do things that were not in her field. When it came to war, Xiaobao could only think of ways to replenish his supplies. He was unable to give timely and reasonable commands, and he could not come up with too many tactical arrangements. But when it came to economics, it was definitely Xiaobao's world. When a letter was sent over, he could see the traces of war in it with just a glance. Then tell me quickly, what are they trying to do? Do you care about it now? Wang Wan humbly leaned beside Zhang Xiaobao and asked with a smile. She understood that whoever was in the field would speak, but she did not believe that Xiaobao was really afraid. As expected, Zhang Xiaobao laughed contemptuously and said, "Him? I'm just too far away, and it's not convenient for me to give commands. He dares to use such petty tricks on me? When I tried to play tricks, he would have already died. Don't laugh. Cuckoo, shouldn't we be more proactive? The best would be to launch a sneak attack on the logistics of the Tibetan army. The Tibetans have no money. They can't afford to fight. If my guess is correct, the imperial court must have made a new move, and it's bigger than what we thought. At the very least, the move in Pengzhou is obvious. War is a battle of money. The Tibetans don't want to lose. Some of them have already noticed that something is wrong, so they want to make money. The purpose of the acquisition is not to restrict us, but to develop them. That's why I said that the person behind the scenes is not bad. He can be considered a little talent. What a pity, sigh. I know what you want to say. You want to say that it's a pity that we met you. So stop bragging. Come, I'll give you a flatbread. I'll eat less. The taste of your flatbread is not bad. It's just that it's not chewy. Wang Wan leaned on Zhang Xiaobao and rolled a flatbread for him, then gave it to him and said, "It's broken. How do you want me to make it chewy? It's fine if you give me some big rice noodles, or I'll make you steamed noodles tomorrow. After fermenting, it's better than the steamed noodles now. Let's do it like that. I'll make soup dumplings for you." Zhang Xiaobao took a bite of the flatbread. It was indeed like what Wang Wan said. The taste was not good. Chapter 633. Wang Wan kept feeding Zhang Xiaobao the pancake until Zhang Xiaobao opened his mouth and said, "Tubo realized that they don't have enough money and can't afford to fight, but they don't want to admit defeat. This is mainly because of you." Don't think that you only led 10,000 people back and forth to fight, but Tubo mobilized a lot of people. They can't keep up with the logistics. They are also waiting for the autumn harvest, but they can't not come after us. At the same time, they have to guard against the main forces of the Tang army. If it was in the past, they should be the ones to collect more taxes from the people of their own country. But this time, a person who thinks that he is powerful suddenly appeared. So they came up with a plan. If I were to name this plan, it would be a contract selling operation. In fact, it is almost the same as cash flow. As long as there is a sum of money, they can use this money to buy assets, such as houses or food. When they are buying, they can discuss and give a portion of it. When they don't have any other money, they don't want this money. Then, through the operation, they can change this agreement slightly and be able to borrow money from other banks. If it were me, I would sign 2 contracts. One is the successful transaction contract, and the other is the subsequent repayment contract. It is just to trick people into trusting me. I think that person is doing the same, unless he has more money to operate. Then what is the use of this kind of false proof of assets? It can be exchanged for more cash. Wang Wan still understood this point. Zhang Xiaobao nodded and said, yes, it is to use this to exchange for money, and then use this money to buy local food and livestock, causing the price of everything to increase. But he shouldn't have bought mules. Does he think that everyone is a fool? Does he think that I am a decoration? The problem now is, how many things has he bought and how much money has he used to pawn these things? The more money he has, the more food and livestock he will buy during the autumn harvest. It will create a situation where the price of goods doesn't fall even though it is the autumn harvest. How can it not fall? How much can he buy during the autumn harvest? Wang Wan agreed with Zhang Xiaobao's analysis, but did not agree with the latter part. How could it fall back? Businessmen pursue profit. How many businessmen can see through such a plan? When the price of goods in a certain region increased, they would not think of suppressing it. They would work together. That person from Tubo would not say that he was from Tubo. If he wanted the merchants from Great Tang to cooperate, he would look for relevant merchants to cooperate. The simplest way to put it was that when foreign hot money was hyping up the domestic financial market, how many businessmen in the country could fight to the death? How could there not be domestic funds adding fuel to the fire? I'm sure that after the autumn harvest, the price of grain will rise instead of falling. Moreover, it will give people the impression that the price will continue to rise. As long as the people can still live, they will cherish the grain and not sell it. The Tubo people will increase the hype and achieve their goal. Their goal is, that's to sell the grain from Tubo, as well as the livestock and poultry from Tubo. Once he sells them all, he won't want the money he invested in them anymore. Everything will turn into bubbles. Many merchants from Great Tang who do the same will suffer losses. Great Tang's commoners who don't grow grain will suffer losses. Yes, those who grow grain will also suffer losses. The merchants have 2 choices. One is to raise money to continue raising the price of goods. The other is to sell at a loss. If they choose the former, it is easy for trouble to happen. Some of the citizens do not have grain, and it will cause social unrest. If they choose the latter, once they sell their grain, the price of all the goods will fall again and again. Then, the Tubo people will be able to buy them at a very low price. Am I right? Wang Wan did not wait for Zhang Xiaobao to finish his words and analyzed. Yes, that is the case. However, this is not the final goal. It is not a peaceful time now, and we can only rely on pure economic means. What do you think will happen when the Tubo people suddenly attack Great Tang? Zhang Xiaobao continued. Yes, it will make things very difficult for Little Li. After all, the cost of transporting grain from outside is much higher than the value of the grain itself. If transportation is still not possible, then I know what to do. The military is to serve politics. Wang Wan had completely thought it through. She picked up the binoculars and went out to look at the terrain. Zhang Xiaobao did not care about Wang Wan. He held his chin and knocked on his face. After thinking for an hour, he muttered to himself, Since that is the case, then let's let the Tubo people see what an all-around war is. Let them understand that there is no distinction between the front line and the rear. Let's use both the military and the economy together. After muttering to himself, Zhang Xiaobao started to write something. When dawn came, he asked Shui Yun to send it to Pengzhou. Pengzhou still looked like they were ready to go to war. They did not know that someone was fighting an economic war with them. Even Zhang Zhong did not expect that a letter he wrote would decide someone else's fate. Until 2 days later, when a horse that was about to die of exhaustion rushed over, Zhang Zhong saw the news that was delivered and realized how great of a thing he had done. He wrote a letter that had a huge impact on the current situation. After changing his handwriting and copying it again, Zhang Zhong sent the letter to Old Man Pai and the other two. He immediately went to make arrangements. This time, his son was in charge of remote command. The people in the inner courtyard of Zhang family and Wang family were mobilized and were very busy. Even Jiang Wang family, who usually only cared about her own family's matters, had no choice but to stand up and cooperate. Husband, it seems like I have to write more letters to Xiaobao and Cuckoo in the future. It's just taking in a mule. But Xiaobao actually saw through so many things. If it was someone else who said this, I would definitely not believe it, but Xiaobao is right. This time, my family will have to take out a lot of money first. So be it. It's better than being schemed against by others. Ciao, you have a good son and a good daughter-in-law. Otherwise, we would definitely be at a disadvantage this time. At this moment, Zhang Zhong had already put aside the shock of receiving the news from before. If it was him who did it, he really wouldn't know what to do. However, with his son's plan, he wasn't afraid. He knew his son's ability, so he just had to follow his instructions. After Jiang Wang family heard Zhang Zhong's words, she said with a rosy face, "If it weren't for Xiaobao and Cuckoo, this kind of thing wouldn't have happened to us. The people of Tubo are indeed not ordinary. Unfortunately, they met Cuckoo during the war. When they were calculating the economy, they were discovered by Xiaobao. Then they can forget about it." While Jiang Wang family and Zhang Zhong were speaking with confidence, Old Man Pai and the other two people were looking at the news sent by Zhang Zhong and fell into a certain state of mind. They didn't know that it was Zhang Xiaobao who was helping them remotely. They thought that it was the experts from the Zhang family who found out that something was wrong. Zhang Zhong only sent them a part of his son's analysis. It didn't include the response at the back. Therefore, Old Man Pai and the other two people were very anxious after seeing this analysis. What should we do? What should we do? Should we send people to catch the businessman who raised the price? I don't know if it's true or not, but it should be true. The Zhang family has never done anything wrong. Old Man Chang was the most anxious. The matter at the front line wasn't over yet, and something else had happened here. Old Man Pai carefully read the analysis 3 times before saying, "The Zhang family is indeed not ordinary. After seeing what is written here and thinking about it carefully, it really is so. There are actually such capable people in Tubo. Fortunately, we also have the experts from the Zhang family. Otherwise, this time, we would have suffered a big loss. How did the Tubo learn this kind of economic knowledge? Could it be that it's that game of Monopoly? There's quite a lot involved in that, especially the top-level stuff. If that's really the case, then I can only let more people from my dynasty go and have fun. I can't just stop it, and I can't stop it anyway." Old Man Pai sighed at the fact that there was someone more powerful on his side. Otherwise, wouldn't he have been tricked by the Tubo people? If others were only analyzing, he knew a lot of things. There was news that the Tubo people were preparing for the autumn harvest. Not only did the commoners have to work, but it was also said that some of the tribes had to come out to help as well. What did this mean? It meant that the Tubo people were indeed lacking things, and were waiting for this year's autumn harvest to be good. In the past, the Tubo people were facing difficulties, but at that time, they could only think of using war to obtain things. This year, they actually used economic means. Old Man Yao also frowned his white eyebrows. He looked at the analysis and understood the Tubo people's general plan. He didn't doubt it, but analysis was just analysis. He didn't write down any specific countermeasures. Could it be that there was no way? He really didn't want to believe that the experts of the Zhang family couldn't come up with a countermeasure. How was that possible? If there was really no countermeasure, what was the point of analyzing? Thinking about the experts of the Zhang family, Yao Chong said to Old Man Pai and Old Man Chong, "Why don't we ask Zhang Zhong and see what kind of countermeasure he can come up with?" "Yes, ask Zhang Zhong. As long as Zhang Zhong comes up with a countermeasure, it will be the expert's countermeasure." Old Man Chong agreed. Old Man Pai started to write a letter. "I have to tell this to the emperor and see if the imperial court can come up with a countermeasure." Just as the three old men were preparing to send a letter to the capital, Zhang Zhong's memorial was sent out. It was also a pigeon, but this time it was from his family and not Old Man Chang's. Zhang Zhong really hoped to have an eagle like Shuiyun. He didn't need to waste pigeons. Shuiyun only needed to let it remember what sign was placed in a place, and it could fly over and back by itself. Pigeons couldn't. Once they flew over, they would be gone. They needed to be put back in a cage. Wherever the pigeon nest was, the pigeon would fly there. However, there was only one Shuiyun. It was a true companion. It could send letters, monitor the enemy, and cooperate to kill the enemy. There were more than 100 eagles in Sanshui County, but none of them could catch up to Shuiyun. Now, Shuiyun definitely couldn't be brought back. Without Shuiyun, his daughter-in-law would definitely feel very uncomfortable. By the time Old Man Pai's letter was sent out, Zhang Zhong's pigeon had already left for a long time. This time, Zhang Zhong followed his son's idea and exposed his son. However, he used a test story to cover up the expert of the Zhang family. When Zhang Zhong was waiting for the merchants to arrive, Old Man Pai and the other two arrived first. Just like what was said in the letter, as long as he waited, they would come over and ask. Then they would cooperate with him. It was indeed correct. "Yongcheng, why do I feel that the tea we drank last time tasted wrong? Don't tell me you used other teas to make up the numbers?" Old Man Pai spoke as soon as he saw Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong thought to himself, "You can keep pretending. My son already mentioned that you would come over." He even summarized the words he said at the beginning. One of them was to mention the tea leaves first. Fortunately, he didn't mention fishing. So it's Master Bai. How can the tea be bad? How about this? I'll go and brew the tea now. If I find that it's different from yours, you can take my tea away. That way, it can't be bad, right? Zhang Zhong also learned to be tactful and followed along. Old Man Pai nodded. When he saw Zhang Zhong go to get the tea set, he didn't wait for Zhang Zhong to brew the tea and said, "Drinking tea requires one to be in harmony with the mood and environment. The environment here is not good. Then, should we go to the river? At this time, the riverside is not bad. Some of the grass is yellow, while others are green," Zhang Zhong probed. "Yes, that's right. Look, I even brought the fishing rod." Old Man Pai immediately followed along with Zhang Zhong's words. When he was speaking, his follower came over and showed the fishing rod to Zhang Zhong. When Zhang Zhong saw the fishing rod, he felt sad for Tubo, who wanted to fight an economic war. "This is my son." Not only did he see the economic war, but he also had countermeasures. He could even predict Bai Go's reaction in advance and had a follow-up response. "No matter how powerful Tubo is, can you compare to my son's finger? Yes, according to my son's words, I can't beat you to death. This is a true plan of mine. He can predict the enemy first. Plus, he has a daughter-in-law who is good at fighting. It will be easy in the future." Seeing that Old Man Pai's people took out the fishing rod, Zhang Zhong was not surprised. He also took out a set of fishing equipment from the table beside him and said to Bai Go with a smile, "If Master Bai didn't come, I was going to go fishing too. Let's go together. Bring the tea set and go together. I've already prepared the bait. It's enough for 4 people." Therefore, while Old Man Pai and the others were surprised that Zhang Zhong also wanted to go fishing, the 4 of them went to the riverside outside the city. The weather was not bad today. It was not cloudy, And there was no fog. There was a group of children playing upstream. The four of them had different thoughts, so they didn't care if the child would affect the fish. Everyone was just fishing for the fish. Zhang Zhong divided the bait and casually threw out the fishing rod. He did not expect any fish to take the bait. He was fishing when he had nothing to do. If he wanted to eat fish, he would just use the net. He still had many things to do. If it was not to learn this kind of special method, he would not have come. Her son and daughter-in-law had said that not all business had to be done in the office. Sometimes there were more business to be done at the wine table, tea table, card game, and all kinds of leisure and entertainment activities than in a proper place. It was the same even if they went to the brothel together. Of course, he did not want to think about it. He could not do anything to let Xiao down. Besides, his son would not agree. Even if he really found a brothel, he could not expect to be accompanied by a woman. Last time, he was forced to go there. In the end, there was no woman accompanying him. A group of men came out. That time, he saw his son's methods. When he came back, his son looked at him differently. He was wronged. He did not want to find a woman. Even if there was a woman accompanying him, he would not do anything to let Xiao down. Looking at his son's regretful and disappointed eyes, he felt that the sky was dark at that time. Zhang Zhong left behind a sequela. Whenever he was about to talk about business with someone else, he would remember what happened in the past. That one time was enough. If anyone King dragged him to the brothel again, he would fall out with that person. This was because he did not have a woman. If his son could not take care of himself, and a woman came out, how many people would die? Whoever dragged him should go and make arrangements for his funeral. Zhang Zhong's thoughts flew away while he was fishing. Old Man Pai changed the bait a few times, but he still did not catch anything. Thus he said to Zhang Zhong, "Yongcheng, I just realized that fishing is also a skill. You know that the fish are in the water, and you also know that the fish need to eat, but sometimes you are not in a hurry to catch the fish. Just now, I was in a hurry, so the fish did not eat the bait. Don't you think so?" Zhang Zhong also put away his fishing rod and changed the bait. When he heard Old Man Pai's words, he glanced over and thought to himself, "Sure enough, my son was right. This old man likes to play with people when he is fishing. Lord Bai can actually see the skill in fishing. I admire you. I don't know how to fish. I just remembered today. I had nothing to do, so I asked someone to prepare a fishing rod. Maybe it's because the fishing rod is not good. I am not sure." Zhang Zhong followed the steps written by his son. The small book also included this. According to his son, it was because he had been in contact with the fish for a long time and was familiar with it. It was a part of psychology. Old Man Pai waved his hand. Rather than saying that the fishing rod is not good, how can the fishing rod of the Zhang family not be good? Then you won't be able to find a good fishing rod in this world. To put it bluntly, only your father-in-law can come up with a few ideas in this area. It's a pity that you can't go and take a look like him. He hasn't been doing too well recently. When Zhang Zhong heard Old Man Pai mention his father-in-law, there was no longer any hatred in his heart. If there was anything to hate, it would be his own lack of ability. Which father would be willing to give his daughter to a man who was nothing? If Xiao Bao was bad, would the Wang family have let Cuckoo stay in their home? Thus he said, "Lord Taishan is indeed quite free. When Xiao Bao and Cuckoo come back, let them go and take a look. Then bring along Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are sensible and won't cause trouble." That's good. This old man has a long tongue. Let me say something. After all, we are a family. The knowledge of fishing is easy to learn, but the knowledge of fishing is not easy to learn. Between people, just like between a man and a fish, there is always the existence of benefits. Or, to put it bluntly, it is called seducing each other. Don't you think so? Old Man Pai then changed the topic to fishing. Yes, after hearing what Lord Bai said, it's really like that. Zhang Zhong didn't have a script now. His son didn't expect to mention this matter either. Then Yongcheng, what do you think about the economy? Is it the same as fishing? For example, if someone from Tubo wants to do something in this area, do you think he's a fish or a fisherman? Old Man Pai put the bait and threw the hook in. Of course, he's a fish. No matter how good Tubo's economic warfare is, it still depends on who the opponent is. It's still too early to be a fisherman. He has to learn. Give him 10 years, and it's already not bad if he can roughly learn it. Does he really think that he is so free in the water and can hide behind other fish to eat the bait? Lord Bai, don't worry. Not all fish are so smart. It's just that it takes a lot of effort for one person to fish. If it's a fish in the water, Lord Bai, Lord Yao, and Uncle Zhang will fish together. Then it will be easy. Zhang Zhong was relieved and finally returned to a normal topic. Chapter 634. He rides a bamboo horse, but when he approaches, he falls headfirst. In the courtyard where they lived together, the two young people played without suspicion. When Zhang Zhong accompanied Old Man Pai and the other two to fish, Wang Wan's younger brother rode a bamboo stick and imitated his sister's cavalry. When Xiao Bei tied one end of the rope to a rock and held the other end in his hand, he fell. His forehead was bruised and he cried loudly. Xiao Bei squatted innocently at the side and said that those who surrendered would not be killed. Wang Wan's younger brother wiped his tears and shook his head. Liar. Those who surrender will die even faster. Xiao Bei's group of children caused quite a commotion. The children in the stronghold in Izhou had already split into groups and started fighting. They took turns to be the Tufan and Tang soldiers. Usually, the Tang soldiers won. If the Tufan army won, they would have to start all over again until they were defeated. How could the Tufan army win? This kind of game originally existed, but now it had a clear position. It was not the officials catching the thieves, but the Tang army fighting against the Tufan army. The commoners did not care about how the children in their homes made a ruckus. As long as they did not cause trouble and played with the other children, it was fine. Occasionally, when they were happy, they would tell the children what they heard about the battle. They would exaggerate and embellish the story. Even the storytelling style used by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan in the Little Pear Garden in Huaiyuan County was copied and told in restaurants and tea shops. The commoners were also willing to listen. Even if they had heard it many times, even if the versions were different, they would still listen attentively and feel comfortable. Gradually, it formed a trend of the whole people resisting the Tufan army. In the past, Blind Huang brought along a granddaughter to sing poems for others to make a living. Every time he raised a granddaughter, he would find a decent person for his granddaughter to marry. After that, he would find another granddaughter in a desolate place to teach her how to sing. In the past 20 years, he had already raised 3 granddaughters. Just as he was preparing to find another granddaughter to sing and earn money, he suddenly discovered the profession of storytelling. He felt that he could also learn how to earn some money. After learning for 2 years, with the knowledge of traveling extensively, he really did learn it. Because there were too many storytellers in the capital, there were only a few jokes that he could tell. Blind Huang, who was determined to find more opportunities, came all the way from the capital to Jiannan Circuit. As he walked, he told jokes, and he really did manage to save up some money. After arriving at this place, he found that there were indeed many stories that he could tell. After inquiring with the commoners who knew the general situation for a few days, he made up his own stories. Narrowing his eyes, he found the Yishui city at the intersection of the Great River and the Yishui River. In the city, there was a restaurant called the Linjiang Restaurant. It was 3 stories high and took up 10 zhang of the street. It was not small, and it was bustling with the noise of carriages and horses. The waiters in charge of welcoming customers were coming in and out of the restaurant. With just a glance, one could tell that the business was good. It was a good place. Blind Huang pondered for a while and decided to tell his stories at this Linjiang restaurant. He rolled his eyes, trying his best to show the whites of his eyes. The stick in his hand was now in front of him, and he slowly walked in. He was secretly worried that the restaurant would not let him in. In the past, he had encountered many situations where he was chased out. However, this restaurant had its own style. It did not matter if you were walking, riding a horse, or sitting in a carriage. It did not matter if you were wearing a brocade robe or a hemp garment. Once you entered, you were a guest. Blind Huang had not even entered the restaurant. He was just walking in when a waiter came over to help him. He looked around and saw that there were no other customers. He shouted for someone to enter the restaurant and arranged for him to stand near the door. When it was time to leave, it would be convenient for him to stand at the side and wait for someone to order something. Usually, the ordinary people who came here would finish their noodles or get a plate of salted beans and a bowl of the worst wine. The waiter felt that this old man was the same. It was impossible that he would go to the third floor and order some exotic delicacies. Blind Huang did not plan to spend money to eat here. No matter what, it was more expensive than other small stalls. It did not matter if the food was good or not. It was fine as long as it could fill his stomach. However, if he did not order anything, what would happen if he was chased out? He could only choose the cheap things. He asked for a plate of salted beans and asked for tea. He did not order anything, meaning that he only wanted to eat a plate of salted beans. The waiter did not care. Even if a plate of salted beans was not enough to buy the tea, he still served it. This tea was not good tea. If one wanted to drink good tea, they had to order something else, the kind that cost money. He also took half a head of garlic and placed it on the table. Eating garlic was a common practice. Many people asked if there was any garlic when they entered. If there was, they would eat it. Blind Huang was a little flattered. He didn't expect that Linjiang restaurant would be able to do business to such an extent. It was almost on par with Shuiyan restaurant in Sanshui County. Over there, no matter what they ordered, even the cheapest 1 copper coin dish would be given 4 small plates. Of course, beggars did not need to go through the front door. They would wait at the back. If there were leftovers, they would naturally bring them. Even if there were times when there were no leftovers, there would be leftovers, and a large wooden barrel filled with vegetable soup. In terms of benevolence, between the clouds and the water looked down on its piers. After praising Linjiang restaurant in his heart, Blind Huang reached out and picked up a bean. He threw it into his mouth and tasted it carefully. It was not bad. There was also the fragrance of anise. If only there was a bowl of wine. When the waiter saw that the old man did not order anything else, he turned around and went back to work. He could not be like the third floor, waiting outside the private room at all times. Blind Huang ate a few beans and drank half a bowl of tea. He cleared his throat and slammed his hand on the table, attracting the gazes of the people around him. Only then did he open his mouth and say, "This is the first time I've ever heard of this. I have traveled north and south, crossing 1,000 bridges. There are many things in the world. Immortals are always happy and unfettered. Mortals cry and laugh when they are angry. I have been to Tang to see the rising tide. I have seen the beautiful peonies of the capital. Today, I have come to Jiannandao. Jiannandao is shaken by wind and rain. Tubo invades the border every year. The fog rises and the heart is anxious. Flying cavalry runs below the city walls. Arrows rain from the top of the city walls. Let me tell you about Cuckoo. Tell me about her battle robes at the age of 9. After this opening speech, Blind Huang took another sip of tea. He wanted to give the others time to react. If they knew what he was doing, they would not think that he was crazy. The surrounding people were indeed attracted. The first part of the speech was not bad and was easy to understand. When they heard the last part, they knew that he was going to talk about a heroine. Everyone became spirited and stopped chatting. Those who were drinking also stopped, waiting for this person to continue. Blind Huang's ears twitched. The surrounding people were quiet. He coughed and continued. When Cuckoo was 9 years old, she studied military books diligently. One day, the sound of horses' hooves and flags fluttered. It was the emperor's army. One order was sent to Izhou Prefecture, and the other to the great Tang army. When Cuckoo received the order, she looked to the west. Her heart was worried about the death of 1,000 souls in Shuzhou. She wore a purple tasseled crown on her head, 100 battle robes on her body, cloud boots on her feet, and a swallow ring saber in her hand. Blind Huang stood up as he spoke. He even gestured as he spoke. It seemed that this was really the case. Okay, go on. The surrounding people only listened for a short while before they paid. They did not care whether Wang Wan could really carry the swallow ring saber or not. In any case, they just wanted to praise her. Blind Huang did not expect that after just a few words, someone would pay him. Good, talking about this was better than talking about other things. He was excited. He pulled down his collar and rolled up his sleeves. He did not look like a storyteller, but a butcher. After receiving the order, Cuckoo led people to Pengzhou Pass. At Pengzhou Pass, the west wind blew. Year after year, the wall was dyed with green blood. Cuckoo urged her horse to rush there. 7 days later, she stood facing the pass. At this time, a scout came to report. Guotu's army has been attacked and is trapped in the Great Jinshuan. It is extremely urgent. When Cuckoo heard this, her eyebrows raised. She held the swallow ring saber in front of her and shouted angrily, "Hey! Tubo bullied our great Tang because we have no people. Men, gather the troops and follow this general to kill." That is truly the sound of iron hooves suppressing the border. If we don't kill Tubo, we swear we won't return. At this point, Blind Huang paused. No one cheered. They were all waiting for him to continue talking about how Cuckoo killed the enemy. Although the crowd had already heard many versions of the story, they still wanted to hear more. This was especially true for this storyteller. He seemed to be even better at telling the story. Blind Huang continued that Guotu was originally a valiant general, but unfortunately, he encountered the famous Tubo general. Tu had been beaten until he was at his wit's end. He was about to lead the remaining soldiers to fight to the death with the Tubo army, staining the battlefield red with blood. Suddenly, a troop of elite cavalry appeared from the direction of the Great Tang. These elite cavalry trod on one side of the battlefield and looked in another direction. Their spears were like a forest. Their sabers were held horizontally in front of them. They advanced like the wind and struck like thunder. As the saying goes, the general is the soldier's courage. The soldier is the general's soul. How could the Tang army's morale soared, and they fought back with all their might. Good. Well said. It's the logistics camp in Ezhou. We don't need too many powerful soldiers to fight Tufan. The logistics camp is enough. Speak quick. The audience continued to shout, and the sound of money being thrown increased. It wasn't just the people around Blind Huang who were excited. Even the people who had just entered and heard the last few words were equally excited. Boss Chi, listen, there's another person talking about Cuckoo. This one seems to be better than the others. This time, Cuckoo has really done a great service to the country. Good job killing her. What does Boss Chi think? Among the people who had just entered, one of them asked the person who was standing in front of the crowd. The corner of Boss Chi's mouth twitched. Wei Wei nodded. Good. What a good demoness, Cuckoo. What a good Ezhou logistics camp. Good job killing her. Chapter 635. Qi Dongjia and his group went straight to the third floor, chose a private room with a view of the river, and sat down. They casually ordered a few dishes, waited for them to be served, and waved the waiter away. Only then did Qi Dongjia retract his gaze from the rolling water outside, and said to everyone, we have to hurry up with the harvest. Otherwise, When others find the opportunity, the money will. Boss Chi didn't finish his sentence, but everyone knew what he meant. If they couldn't harvest enough, they wouldn't get enough money. Someone sitting next to Boss Chi asked worriedly, "Boss Chi, what if we can't sell the grain after we harvest it? The autumn harvest is in a few days. Usually, we should slow down the harvest. After the autumn harvest, we will continue to harvest. Are you afraid that I don't have enough money?" Boss Chi didn't have any room for negotiation. That's not it. The money that Boss Chi is putting out is enough to harvest the grain of several states this year. I'm just worried that it won't be easy to sell. The person who spoke just now kindly reminded him. Boss Chi put on a mysterious smile and said, "Of course it won't be easy to sell the grain, but I have a method to turn the grain into something else. When the time comes, I will have to rely on you." Well said, well said. Since Boss Chi has a plan, we will harvest enough grain. As for the higher-ups investigating, if someone investigates, I will do my best. Don't worry, I have already arranged everything. After we harvest the grain, we will all be rich together. Come, drink. Boss Chi said confidently to everyone. He raised his cup and drank with everyone. Zhang Zhong was still fishing by the river. He didn't catch a single big fish, only a few small fish. He estimated that 4 people's fish would be enough to make fish soup for the little ones. If they wanted to eat braised fish, they would have to wait until they were big enough. Old Man Pai changed the bait once. With a shake of his wrist, he threw the hook into the river. He looked at the children bathing upstream and said to Zhang Zhong, "Yongcheng, since we're going to fish together, shouldn't we go upstream?" "Lord Bai, you must be joking. It's just a fish, so there's no need to go so far. The middle reaches will do. There should be some children in the middle reaches who can't resist the temptation and help the fish hide. They might even release the fish that is hooked. Lord Bai, you just need to control the children in the middle reaches. I'll do the work in the lower reaches." Zhang Zhong said to Old Man Bai as he retracted his pole and pinched the hook in his hand. The bait had been eaten, and the fish had not been caught. Old Man Pai looked at Zhang Zhong in surprise. When did Zhang Zhong learn to speak like this? Moreover, from their words, it could be heard that the Zhang family didn't care at all this time. They seemed to be very confident. Could it be that the Tubo people were so easy to deal with? Or could it be that the ability of the master of the Zhang family had reached an unfathomable level? Zhang Zhong seemed to have seen through Old Man Pai's thoughts and said, "This time, Xiao Bao will be in charge. It's time for him to train. It's just that the Shui Yun is flying here and there. I'm afraid that it will delay the battle over there. When the other hunters come over, send a few more. Although they can't be compared to the Shui Yun, they can still help to check the enemy's situation." Xiao Bao, he's in charge? Could it be? Old Man Pai was shocked. He was worried that something had happened to the master of the Zhang family. Did he feel that he couldn't do it and wanted to test Cuckoo and Xiao Bao in advance? Once the 2 kids succeed, the expert can rest assured and leave. This wouldn't do. The master had done a lot for the Tang Empire. No matter what, he had to have a title and be conferred a title. Moreover, he hadn't met the master yet. Even if he met him once, it would be fine. Zhang Zhong understood the meaning behind Old Man Pai's words and sighed in his heart. How could there be a master? The masters of the Zhang family and Wang family had all gone to the front line. If there really was a master, why would Xiao Bao be in charge from so far away? He had to fight with Cuckoo and take care of this place at the same time. Only Xiao Bao and Cuckoo could do this. If it were someone else, even an adult wouldn't be able to bear it, let alone a child. Old Man Pai saw that Zhang Zhong didn't want to continue, so he had to change the topic. He asked, "Half of the Yongqing family's inner court has gone to Pengzhou. Do you still need more people?" "Yes, but the people in Lord Bai and Lord Yao's family are not enough. This time, we need to transfer people from Sanshui County. Mi Fan and Han Xianfeng are urgently transferred over. Together with Su Si, the 3 of them are enough to deal with the Tibetans." Zhang Zhong didn't expect that in his son's letter, he would ask for those 2 people to be transferred over. What was the use of those 2 people? Old Man Pai knew of Su Si. Back then, he was in charge of setting the price at the market beside the Wang family's river. In the past, the Gu family was a very ordinary farmer in Zhuangzi. He wasn't valued by the Gu family. However, when it came to the Zhang family, it was different. He never did anything that was assigned to him. The Zhang family's ability to judge people was also extraordinary. Today, the two people that were transferred over through the military station were perhaps the other trump cards of the Zhang family, just like Zhang Ying and Zhang Lang. Who would have thought that the two people sent by Song Jinggong would be so powerful? Not to mention searching for people, just the two of them, 2 dogs, and 1 eagle were able to find Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. They actually killed 290 Tibetans and seized 285 horses. Looking at the situation, the other 2 people were also transferred over at the crucial time. Otherwise, why didn't they transfer Song Jinggong? Song Jinggong was in charge of a region, so there was no doubt about his ability. Who knew how many more people, like him, the Zhang family, that hadn't been revealed? They were really well hidden. Old Man Yao listened at the side. What he was most concerned about was whether this mission was really controlled by Xiao Bao from a distance. If they really won, when Xiao Bao and Cuckoo returned, would they continue to be idle like they had nothing to do, or would they be given actual positions? Xiao Bao and Cuckoo were second-level nominal positions, one for civil affairs and one for military affairs. Zhang Zhong's position should also be raised. Otherwise, it wouldn't be right for an adult to have a lower position than his 9-year-old son. Old Man Yao thought about it and really couldn't understand at the moment. He might as well let others worry about it. He asked Zhang Zhong, Yongcheng, when will the real fishing begin? It's better to have a detailed plan. We'll start right away. I'll give you the plan later. Xiao Bao has already done it. Please help me take a look and see if there's anything missing. The child is still young, so he might not have thought it through. Zhang Zhong's goal was achieved, so he didn't want to fish anymore. He put away his pole and left. He even said a few words of modesty for his son. He didn't believe that the 3 old men would be able to see any problems with his son's plan. He had already looked at it, but he didn't understand it. He would have to wait for the next plan to come back. 2 pigeons spread their wings and flew towards the capital to get Mi Fan and Han Xianfeng. When they passed by the capital, they had to ask if anything had happened in the imperial court. There probably weren't any rewards, so those people were too stingy. The sky gradually darkened, and the wind grew stronger. Wang Wan went to observe the terrain last night. She didn't find any good ideas. The 2 tribes of Tubo actually kept a little distance from each other. They didn't even send out scouts. They just followed the traces left behind. If they wanted to attack, it was like facing a turtle. They couldn't find a place to attack. Wang Wan didn't want to use less than 10,000 people to charge head-on. Although she hoped that others would use normal methods to fight, she didn't like it. There were too many people who died in a head-on battle. Unless they were forced to the point of no return, they could only face the enemy head-on. Otherwise, she preferred to plan slowly. She would eat a little bit at a time. When she ate more than enough, it would be enough. She would use guerrilla warfare to fight. Of course, at this time, if there were dozens of large copper cannons on the naval gunboats, she would dare to attack the Tubo cavalry under the cover of the cannons. With the cannons moving forward and the cavalry's speed, it would be too easy for them to charge at the infantry. Now that the sky had darkened and the wind had gotten stronger, Wang Wan went to observe the terrain again. Opportunity. Any change in the weather was an opportunity for the troops in battle. It just depended on whether they could grasp it. According to their current speed, they would arrive at the desert in 4 days. Wang Wan stood on a very small hill and observed the terrain. Zhang Xiaobao squatted beside her and dug for wild vegetables. There weren't many wild vegetables in the autumn, but it couldn't be compared to the ones in the spring. Zhang Xiaobao said more than once that if it was spring, he could make a small root vegetable for Wang Wan. It would taste very fresh with cat's ear soup. Wang Wan looked for a while and was very disappointed. The hill was too short and it was difficult to grasp the overall situation. She turned her head and shouted to Zhang Ying, who was at the foot of the hill, "Call Shui Yun over. Catch me and take me to the sky to have a look." Zhang Ying was a little worried, but he still made a net with a leather rope and sent it to Wang Wan. He let Wang Wan put it on, tied a piece of wood to the leather rope, and called Shui Yun to catch her. Shui Yun was indeed obedient and did what it was told. It didn't know how it communicated with Zhang Ying, but it flew up and slowly swooped down to catch Wang Wan. Wang Wan held the binoculars in one hand and grabbed Shui Yun's foot with the other. She was afraid that Shui Yun would be happy and let go of its claws. One person and one eagle flew up and hovered high in the sky. Wang Wan's field of vision widened, and she looked left and right happily. After a while, she put away the binoculars, took out a piece of cloth from her body, and threw it out. Zhang Ying saw the cloth and whistled. Shui Yun slowly swooped down again. When Wang Wan's foot was about to touch the ground, it let go of its claws. Wang Wan rolled forward with the force, jumped up and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "It's flying." "They're flying. How satisfying. If I were to raise 100 of these eagles, wouldn't I be able to form an aerial unit? I think that if we can find a way to find more than 100 Shui Yun, it's better to spend the energy on research. Maybe we can even build an airplane. Have you thought of how to scheme against people?" Zhang Xiaobao looked at the Shui Yun that had landed on Zhang Ying's shoulder and was rubbing its head against his face. He dispelled Wang Wan's unrealistic fantasy. "I thought of it. It's going to rain, and the traces on the ground will be obvious when it rains. We were prepared and knew in advance that we were going to the desert, so we brought a lot of supplies. There are 40,000 people in Tubo, and they didn't steal as many horses as we did. How much food can they bring with them? Didn't you want to use salt to pickle vegetables? Now we have it." Wang Wan patted the dust on her body and said to Zhang Xiaobao, Chapter 636. Kimu Kahu brought his men and followed the others. After a few days of traveling, he didn't notice anything. He didn't know why, but the calmer the Tang army was, the more worried he got. It was just like when the Tang army was hiding in the village. Once it was ready, when the time was right, the Tang army would give him a ruthless blow. He could be considered to have met that female general, Wan Wan. Perhaps the little girl had been able to fantasize about all of those strategies. Thinking back to it, it was like a dream. Now that there was no movement for a few days, it was probably going to be troublesome. And the sky was also dark. Could it be that they wanted to attack in the rain? No, he had to find someone to talk to in case he fell for it. After thinking about it, Kimu Kahu went to Lufu Tuda. Lufu Tuda was busy with the cavalry training. When he saw Kimu Kahu, he seemed a little embarrassed. He pulled Kimu Kahu into the tent. "Lufu Tuda, don't tell me you want to follow what I said and send light cavalry to attack the Tang army? No, it's too late now. Definitely not. If you want to attack, you have to wait for the rain to stop. That little brat likes to use all kinds of terrain and weather to attack. She can find an opportunity when there's fog or when the weather is hot. Listen to me, don't think about attacking her now. Continue to shrink your troops and slow down your marching speed. Increase the distance between you and her. After the rain passes, we can talk about other tactics. Also, it's best to send someone to take care of the logistics." Kimu Kahu knew what the other party was thinking. He wanted to bring the cavalry out, but the other party didn't agree. Now he was actually doing it secretly. Sigh. "It's fine if you want to take credit, but not now." Lufu Tuda was pointed out by others and felt a little embarrassed. When he heard that Kimu Kahu stopped him, he thought that Kimu Kahu was afraid that he would succeed. In the end, he gave the idea for nothing. If he listened to him, he would be a fool. When he said it was fine, why couldn't he do it? "I have my own plans for this matter. Are you used to living here? Why don't we get someone to carry you around? That will be more comfortable." Lufu Tuda looked around and said to Kimu Kahu. He seemed to be very friendly, but his attitude of keeping people at arm's length was obvious. "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Luftfutuda. Since that's the case, I'll head back first." Seeing that the other party didn't listen to him, Mukko couldn't do anything. If it were him, he wouldn't listen to others either. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough people in his camp and couldn't do anything. Otherwise, he would think of something. After sending Kamyuk out of the tent and watching him leave, Luftfutuda laughed coldly and said to the people beside him, "Did you see that? This is a power struggle. He pretends to be kind, but in fact he is not. Pass down the order." Tonight, the cavalry will attack in the rain. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The heavy rain made the originally dry ground muddy. It was just evening, and the sky was so dark that it was hard to see far away. Luftfutuda's cavalry was ready. At this moment, the people in front of the team, who were carefully observing the tracks, suddenly ran over. The Tang army increased their speed. From the distance between the horses' footprints and the people's footprints, especially the people's footprints, the distance between every 2 steps was larger, indicating that they were running. Ran away? Chase after them. Order everyone to run and chase after them. The cavalry don't attack first. It will waste the horses in the rain. Hearing that the Tang army increased their speed, Luftfutuda immediately ordered the troops to follow. When it was midnight, Luftfutuda realized that the Tang army had not stopped. Luftfutuda could not let the soldiers continue chasing. He did not want the Tang army to take advantage of the fact that they were exhausted to get down from their horses. Luftfutuda's troops were already too far away from the other troops, and it would be easy for something to happen. Luftfutuda's troops stopped, but the Tang army continued to rush forward. After running for another 2 hours, more than 2,000 people were left to rest. The cavalry and horses went elsewhere. The road was difficult, and the cavalry couldn't increase their speed. The horses were almost exhausted, but the troops continued to force their way forward. Luckily, they didn't need to carry many people, and most of them had already dismounted and left. When the Tibetan team continued to move forward at dawn, the logistics team that was not too far behind also arrived at the hill where Wang Wan stood yesterday. In the heavy rain, the people from the logistics team moved even slower, but they did not dare to waste time and could only force their way forward. Yesterday, they had to put up a cloth to block the rain for the rations and take care of the horses. All of them were exhausted. They only rested for 4 hours at night, and they had to hurry again at dawn. What if something happened in front of them and they pushed the blame to the logistics troops? Sunny rode in the front and looked back at his troops. Many of the 2,000 men nodded after every step they took, as if they wanted to sleep. He looked at the ditches in front of him and the potholes in front of him. He did not know whether to curse the heavens or the troops in front of him for moving so fast. Sunny did not know whether to curse the heavens or the troops in front of him. "Hurry up, it'll be fine when we catch up with the troops in front. What are we doing here? It's all potholes. Carry people, carry the carts over. Are we just waiting for the horses to pull the carts over?" Sang Er shouted at his men when he saw the carts getting stuck in the potholes one after another. The 2,000 soldiers in charge of transporting the carts had to pull at the front and push at the back. They had to lift and carry the carts so that the troops could move forward slowly. It took them an hour to get past the hill. Just like that, the troops behind them and their carts got stuck in the potholes from time to time. After another 15 minutes, all the carts reached a relatively flat area. The 2,000 logistics troops were so tired that they couldn't stand properly. Sang Er had no choice but to order, "Rest for an hour. Damn the weather. Fix the broken carts quickly. Don't waste our time." Hearing his words, everyone relaxed at the same time. But at that moment, countless people rushed out from behind the hill they had just passed. Fire arrows rained down on the carts. When some of the carts were on fire and some were smoking, the usual rain of arrows fell on the 2,000 logistics troops. The logisticians were stunned by the sudden attack, and Sunny Ring was the first to be shot dead. More than 10 arrows pierced into his body at almost the same time. After losing their commander and being ambushed, the logisticians started to fight on their own. Some of them crouched on the ground to avoid the rain of arrows. Some picked up their weapons and ran towards the direction where the arrows came from. Some ran in another direction, and some just stood there, waiting to be killed. Wang Wan personally commanded the troops to attack. There were more than 6,000 people here. They hid for a while before the rain started. The horses continued to run. In the rain, it was hard to see the depth of the horses' hooves. It was impossible to determine how many things were on the horses' hooves. With the rain washing away, the traces disappeared. She waited for the rain for this opportunity. As expected, the main force of the Tubo troops went to chase after their horses. The logistics troops had to stay behind. How much food was sent to 40,000 people at once? When Lufutuda was still looking for a chance to send his cavalry to attack, the sky behind them was covered in thick smoke. Even from so far away, they could clearly see the sky formed by the smoke. Another Tubo troop that was slightly slower was the first to notice the situation. The first thought that came to their mind was that the logistics troops were attacked by the enemy. They sent out 2,000 cavalrymen to check. In the end, the wind was blowing in their direction. The people who came over were all in tears from the smoke. Not only were the people uncomfortable, but the horses couldn't stand it either. However, they had to come. When they rushed over, they saw the burning carts and the corpses of their brothers. Some of the corpses were very far away. They ran for more than 2 miles, but they were still killed in the same place. Blood mixed with mud. The thick smell of blood was nauseating. They didn't see the enemy and didn't know where the enemy was. The leader of the cavalrymen shouted, "Put out the fire. Use the mud on the ground to cover the carts. Don't let all the food burn up." The 2,000 cavalrymen endured the pain in their eyes and dismounted from their horses. They used their hands to throw the mud mixed with blood onto the smoking carts. After throwing the mud for a while, Wang Wan led her men out from the back of the mountain. She also shot a rain of arrows to protect the new cavalrymen. The water cloud continued to hover in the sky, in charge of monitoring the movements of the other Tubo troops. This time, the cavalrymen weren't completely wiped out. More than 200 of them rode back and escaped. In the end, they encountered more than 600 people and 8,000 horses of the Tang army. The Tang army seemed to have been prepared. A large portion of the 200 people were killed and the rest took a detour. The Tang army didn't chase after them. They rushed to Wang Wan's side and let Wang Wan lead the men to chase after the escaping cavalrymen. After chasing for a while, the water cloud fell. The troops changed their direction again and went through the empty space between the two Tubo troops. This made Wang Wan very surprised. She initially planned to take a detour and go around the two Tubo troops together. She didn't expect Lufutuda to forcefully move his troops and create some distance between them. This saved them a lot of time. Lufutuda looked at the thick smoke behind him and was dumbfounded. Not to mention the general, even a normal soldier would understand what was going on. The army provisions were being attacked, and they had to scrimp and save for their meals. Camus also stood there and looked at the smoke in the sky. He didn't feel surprised at all. He muttered, "I was right? The demon fiend is the demon fiend. We can't give her any chance. She can make use of anything. The terrain, the weather, and the enemy's formation. When dealing with her, we can't think of how to defeat her. Instead, we have to think of how to defend ourselves. Even if our troops are 4 times stronger than her, we have to defend like an iron bucket. As long as we can force her away, we will win." On the other side, Mumukushu's men had already returned to the camp. He told them about the attack and the ambush on his side. Mumukushu immediately ordered his men to defend and gave up on extinguishing the fire. He was also afraid that once they split up, they would be tricked by that little girl. Lufutuda sent men back to take a look and didn't rush forward. He was prepared to wait for the other division to come and discuss what to do next. Now, they weren't forcing the Tang army to enter the desert. Instead, they were thinking of how to prevent the Tang army from killing them. Chapter 637. The world of mortals is bitter. Disputes never stop. Flowers bloom and wilt. Autumn comes and leaves fall, cold and hot. If one does not admit defeat, how can there be evergreen trees, dancing in the clouds, looking back on the past to remember? Kill. The moment the order was given, countless arrows flew towards the Tubo-Luftuta's tribe. The Tubo people immediately raised their shields and hid behind, hoping that they were not the unlucky ones. Ever since Luftuta's army was ambushed yesterday, he had already dispelled the idea of sending cavalry to the front to attack the Tang army. Their morale was gone, and no matter how they thought about it, they could not win against the Tang army. The fire and passion in the soldiers had also been extinguished. They clearly knew that there was a lass in the Tang army that humiliated the entire country. But so what? There was nothing they could do. They could not chase after her. They could not hit her. As long as they tried to trick her, there would be a loophole in their side. The lass would not let go of any opportunity. They could still hold on if they hid, but once the battle formation changed, they would definitely be used. At most, the troops would advance a little faster, and in the end, the logistics would be ambushed. The Tubo soldiers felt very sad. It was not that they were afraid of death and did not charge, but as a general, you should at least give them a chance to charge. It felt like they had met a strong opponent when playing polo. The opponent was clearly one man and one horse breaking through, but they could only retreat step by step. Even if the ball was right in front of them, they did not dare to use their poles. If they used their poles, they would be overtaken. Luftjuta saw that the opponent would take away hundreds of people every time they attacked, and he felt more and more frustrated. He could not think of a solution, so he could only look for Komuku, who was more accurate with his words. Komuku, whose heart had long been numb. He watched the Tang army come and go like the wind. Every time the enemy attacked, they would attack from the direction of the wind. Whenever they were happy, they would come back and shoot another round. If there was a weakness before yesterday, it was that the Tang army did not have enough horses. There had to be someone running below. After Mumuhushu's cavalry was dealt with yesterday, the Tang army still had some men and horses left. The supplies that they sent over were all taken away by the Tang army. The bows that the Tang army used were from Tubo. The arrows that they used were from Tubo. The rice that they ate was from Tubo. And the horses that they rode were from Tubo. There was no need to continue this war. In the future, as long as the Tang Empire had Kuku, Tubo would not dare to invade their borders. Just as Kumu and Ku, who were sighing in their hearts that they were the ones who made Wangwan famous, Luftjuta came looking for them. Komuku, I regret not listening to you. The Tang army is indeed good at sneak attacks. If we were to face them head-on, I am confident that I can defeat them. Quick, give me an idea. Luftjuta was still unwilling to admit that he could not win against the enemy's general. He attributed the victory to the enemy's sneak attack tactics and hoped that Komuku, who could give him a good idea. Let's retreat and let the stronger people come over. Or we can withdraw our troops and enter the city to defend. Our 40,000 men are not a match for her. If she really leads the Tang army to face us head-on, we won't be able to return even if we want to. According to the new information, Pengzhou is preparing to leave the pass at any time. There won't be any reinforcements from other places. There won't be many people escorting the provisions. If they can sneak attack once, they can do it again. Unless one group follows behind and the other group supports the supply team. Let's retreat. Both groups retreat at the same time. Don't give her a chance. Komuku analyzed the situation in front of them and gave such an idea. Of course, Luftjuta was unwilling to listen. We are being attacked by less than 10,000 Tang soldiers, and we have to abandon our defenses? If the Tang army sends out 100,000 soldiers, won't our Tubo be destroyed? No, definitely not. Wouldn't that be admitting to a little girl that we, Tubo, won't dare to do it again? Komuku, are you scared after being beaten? Yes, I'm afraid. I really don't dare to fight against them unless I have a more elite team, and use soldiers to make up for the lack of generals. If you still want to fight against them, Then stop and wait for the logistics. Let them shoot. When they run out of arrows, then slowly follow behind them. The two units must not be separated. Kumukuhu nodded in agreement. He was very clear that he could not compare to the little girl in terms of scheming. To deal with such an opponent, they could only rely on numbers and steadily advance. They must not have any devious thoughts. The Tubo people were hesitating. Wang Wan was much more relaxed. Everyone had a horse, and they could fight and run as they wished. Although the enemy scolded them and said that they did not have the guts, so what? She was still a child. Adults should not lower themselves to the same level as a child and should protect her. Zhang Xiaobao was still in charge of cooking. He caught a few wild boars and let him use the salt he stole to marinate them. He was going to make ham and bring it back for his family to try. He wanted to see if the taste of the Tubo wild boar's ham was different. After seeing Wang Wan happily studying the map, he kept it and said to Wang Wan, "I am going to write a letter back and ask the imperial court to help spread the news that the one commanding the front lines is not the 9-year-old Wang Wan, but someone else. Wang Wan is just trying to anger the Tubo army. What do you think?" "Sure, I know. You don't want to push me up now. If that happens, our peaceful life will be gone. At the very least, we can't let the people talk about us all the time. Don't worry, I don't want to be Wu Zetian or Empress Dowager Xiao. My goal is not to be like them, dancing on the tip of the blade and contending with the various powers. I want to hide behind and make Tang Empire stronger and stronger together with you. Some people like to be heroes, and some people are willing to create heroes. I belong to the latter. What about you? When we go back, what do you want to do?" Wang Wan understood the meaning behind Zhang Xiaobao's words, and she agreed. If one pushed one's position too high, one would sometimes lose sight of one's original ideals. In order to maintain one's position, one would have to pay too great a price. At that time, although many people still knew of one's abilities, the people of the Great Tang would gradually forget about it, and one would be able to return to their original lives. Me? I haven't thought about it yet. I want to make a county with you. I will be the county magistrate, and you will be the chief registrar. Let's wait for a few years. When Tang Empire's economy is prosperous, we will find a new way. Wars with foreign countries are inevitable. Otherwise, when the material life is good, people's pursuit will increase, and the internal pressure will be too great. Zhang Xiaobao did not have a definite plan. He needed to wait for the imperial court's attitude to make a decision. Wang Wan nodded. Then when the time comes, we will find a poor county and slowly govern it. I don't think it will work. Let's talk about the future later. First, help me analyze the current situation. They are like turtles. They are too annoying. The weather gradually turned cold. The people who worked in the fields began to prepare their tools, waiting for the autumn harvest. The commoners in Ijo's stronghold were much more relaxed than the commoners outside. There was only so much land that could be used for farming. They would be content if they collected enough to eat for a year. There was no shortage of salt at home, and there was enough cloth to make clothes. The children had more candy in their hands, and the women had more jewelry. The men organized to go to the snow mountain with Governor Zhang to build a ski resort. The businessmen who came to participate in the investment also sent money to Ijo. Each of them was given a membership card. With this card, they could enjoy a 50% discount. Spending was spending, profit was profit. They could not enjoy it for free just because they had invested money. Originally, not many people really wanted to come to this place for recreation. The sport of skiing had not yet become popular. Who would be willing to come to the mountain to suffer from a cold? They could not stand the reputation of Baigo and Yao Cheng. They also wanted to make friends with Zhang Zheng. However, when they saw people demonstrating skis and sledges on the mountain and the laughter of adults and children, they felt that this place was not bad. Especially when they were tired, they could take a hot bath and have someone massage them. Their whole body would feel comfortable from inside out. At the same time, there was a place for hunting in the ski resort. There were many kinds of wild animals on the mountain. With the local people protecting them, there was no need to worry about accidentally dying. Zhang Zhong organized people to build a restaurant at the top of the mountain and at the bottom of the mountain. It was in the form of a self-service restaurant. There were corresponding, well-enclosed suites for people to discuss secret matters. He did not even refuse the people from the brothel when they came to cooperate. The ski resort also adopted a membership system. It seemed that people who came to the resort would not just pay the fee to play. They had to be members first. After paying the annual fee, part of it would be used to manage the resort, and part of it would be deducted when they played. The membership card was also different from other places. It was made of tortoiseshell, and it showed one's identity when one held it in one's hand. Zhang Zhong also asked people to secretly advertise that the really rich and the really rich people would not like to look for lively places to eat, drink, and play like bumpkins. Zhang Zhong himself liked to go to lively places very much. He did not want the so-called identity that was flattered. He was independent of the circle that others had set for him, and he was aloof. Then Zhang Zhong started to build a winery. It was a very big winery. Before the wine was brewed, the reputation would be built first. A lot of money was spent. He did not need to recruit people who had experience in brewing wine. He first trained them, and during the training process, he would also get a salary. Naturally, the winery needed to have things to brew wine. Zhang Zhong and Wang raised a lot of money and prepared to buy food. After the autumn harvest, they first talked to the people and ordered the food. The price was much higher than the current price. A bushel of wheat was 30 copper coins, and a bushel of rice was 45 copper coins. The price of other things was also increased. But at this time, the imperial court suddenly issued an imperial edict ordering Zhang Zhong to prepare money, to build roads from Izhou to Izhou, and to strengthen and widen the roads connecting to Izhou. It was not known who leaked this imperial edict, but many people knew about it. Zhang Zhong was dumbfounded. He immediately stopped the winery and began to transfer money from other places to Izhou. It was estimated that it would take at least 4 months to escort the grain from the capital to Izhou. Zhang Zhong was helpless. He borrowed money from merchants and used his family's assets as collateral. At the same time, he went to talk to the people who had agreed to harvest the autumn harvest. He delayed it until 1 month after the autumn harvest. He bought the grain at the price of 35 copper coins per bushel of wheat and 50 copper coins per bushel of rice. He also wrote a written agreement. If the people did not accept the grain at that time, he would compensate the people half of the money and use the ski resort shares as collateral. You're tuning in to the Echo Reads YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.